Yep. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening for the work session for the July 2024 meeting of the City Council. For those of you in the room here this evening, I'll make this mention again later tonight, but I'm Joe Farmer. I'm a representative from Ward 4. I serve as the Mayor Pro Tem, and this evening I'm filling in for Mayor Garritano. So you get me instead of him tonight, but we're both Joe, so that makes it easy to figure out. All right. Let's do our roll call.
Mayor Garritano, Councilmember Brost, Councilmember Edens. Here. Councilmember Ottenberg, Councilmember Dodwell. Here. Councilmember Marshall.
Present.
Councilmember Jaxie.
Here.
Councilmember Hopper, Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Preston.
Here.
Councilmember Mabry.
Here.
Councilmember Nyan. Here. Councilmember Farmer.
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Oh, here.
Councilmember Rambo.
Here.
Councilmember Crayons. Councilmember Albers.
All right. Looks like first up, we've got our fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive financial report. We've got Brandy from Reuben Brown joining us this evening.
My name's Brandy Lawyer. I'm the partner on the engagement from Reuben Brown. I've been working with the City of Wildwood for several years. Started as a staff person, manager, and now I have the pleasure of serving as partner on your engagement. I think you have in front of you our viewpoints document that I'll spend some time going through tonight. I'll make this short and sweet because it's all good things. So if you flip open to, it's page 3 of the auditor communications, we have audited the financial statements for the city as of and for the year ended December 31st, 2023, and we issued our report on June 26th. It is due by June 30th, so we made it with just a few days left there. Professional standards that we are required to provide you with the information about your responsibilities under auditing standards generally accepted in the U.S. We've previously communicated some information back in April, but I'm here to report on the audit, and I want to first say thank you to Dawn, who retired mid-audit. She retired around June 15th, and Rana was so great to come in and kind of pick up because I know that was a hard thing to step in the middle, and Thomas for all of his work and making sure this all moved smoothly. We were able to issue the audit. We did issue a clean, what we call an unmodified opinion, so no concerning items. There were no new items to report this year, and we'll get into that on the next page. So management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. Those are going to be listed in note 1 of that annual comprehensive financial report. There were no new policies adopted this year, no transactions entered into for which there was a lack of authoritative guidance, no new standards that we had to implement this year, nothing that we found that was outside of the required framework or unusual transactions. We are required to look at accounting estimates, and some of those can be particularly sensitive because of their significance. For example, if you had really large allowances for your accounts receivable, or you were making estimates for valuation, we determined that you had no significant estimates identified in the financial statements. There are some significant disclosures that are listed in your financial statements if you're going to take a look at anything, because I know it's a really thick document. Note 2 for your deposits and investments, note 4 for your long-term liabilities, and note 7 for your commitments and contingencies would be the ones that I would say are the most sensitive. We are required to also communicate with you any misstatements, and that's going to be any misstatements that we have made journal entries for throughout the audit process, but also any misstatements that we consider to be uncorrected misstatement. So something that we found throughout the audit process that we consider not to be material. So we're not going to make it, but we just have to bring it to your attention. And there are various reasons for passing on those types of adjustments. But we're happy to report that there were no misstatements, uncorrected or corrected, that we need to communicate with you tonight. There were no circumstances that affected our audit report. As I said, a clean opinion. No significant matters that required us to consult with people outside the engagement team. Sometimes we have restatements and things like that that require us to do that. The city had none of those. No difficulty with management. We love coming out and working with you guys. We get to come out here and sit in the offices, and we enjoy working with the staff. And there were no other audit findings or issues noted. And at the end of the audit, management is required to sign a representation letter, and that is attached to this viewpoints document if you wanted to take a look at that. It's about 3 pages long. One item I failed to mention at the beginning before we jump into the charts is the single audit. So last year, the city of Wildwood did not have a single audit, and that is when you have grant expenditures that are over $750,000. So as you're aware, you've got the ARPA funding that's coming in, you're spending that down as the broadband infrastructure is getting put in place. So this year there was a single audit for that grant. No findings, no issues, no concerns as far as that goes, and looking at the compliance. And they're pretty detailed in what we're required to look at for that. So we had no concerns over that as well. And I believe that's part of your packet of information that you received as well. Any questions on the required piece? Okay. So as far as financial health, we just have a couple slides that we like to talk about. The first is the change in net position as a percentage of your net position ratio. So this kind of shows you your financial condition. So a positive ratio indicates that your condition has improved. So you can see over the years, the last 5 years, it's gone from 1.3 to 3.6. 0.9, I think that was when the ARPA funding first came in, and it was all restricted. You couldn't, or deferred, you couldn't spend any of that yet. So it's up to 2.8%. So anything positive is good. This means that you had in your financial statements a positive $2.8 million revenues over expenditures for the year. So that's a positive number, and not everybody has such a positive ratio. And then the one that I like to look at on the next slide is the unrestricted general fund balance ratio. This shows your relationship between the available general fund balance and expenditures, because that's where you have all the unrestricted money sitting. And so as you can see, that's sitting at 168%. So for this year, you had 11.8 million in expenditures in the general fund, and you have 19.9 million in fund balance. So if you brought in no additional money at all next year, you would have enough in your fund balance to cover 1.6 times the expenditures. So you have a very healthy fund balance sitting in the general fund. I'm not going to go through the financial statements. They're, 100 plus pages, or the single audit, but I'd be happy to take any questions at this point.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes, could you just, for information, what would be the average for other cities in St. Louis County?
That is a great question. I used to have that information on the top of my head because we put that together. I don't have that available for you, but I can look and get back with Thomas and have that distributed to you guys. Yep.
Anything else? Ms. Edens.
Yes, and this question may not be appropriate, and it's more generalized to trends that you're seeing across municipalities as an organization. And where this is coming from is a lecture that I sat through at the Missouri Municipal League with cities that are increasingly targets for fraud and financial asset theft. And I'm wondering if you're seeing a lot of that in our area, or if cities are aware of it, or if you are finding issues when funds are transferred out, maybe without their knowledge.
Yes, that is something that I'm seeing very prevalent, not only with cities, other counties that I work with, colleges and universities is another area that I work in. The amount of, hey, can you change my bank account and wire me this money? And people are just doing it. So I would make sure that you're really looking at the controls that are in place around that. I know Dawn and I had talked about that. Rana has actually reached out to me about some things that are being put in place here with Positive Pay that will definitely help that. But I would say anything that's being paid through ACH, things like that, making sure that if you're receiving emails or faxes, I had somebody who changed a bank account based on a fax, that you are picking up the phone and calling that vendor. Just making sure you're going through that extra step, because that's how they get you. It's like, oh, I know this vendor, they emailed me and the email address looks legit. And then people are wiring out money. And I've had several clients who've wired out hundreds of thousands of dollars that they have not been able to get back.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. And sort of if you audited processes and for cities in terms of recommendations. And the example that really stuck with me is it was another city in Missouri. Their employee's account was taken over and they didn't know. So they were forwarding emails from that correct email account to themselves. It was a foreign actor. So like they would develop a relationship with the bank and it was millions of dollars that went.
And that is so hard to catch from an audit.
Right, because yeah, so they needed the redundancies in place to
Yes.
to have multiple people sign off.
Yes, we
before
have
they-
a very, I would say robust cybersecurity practice at the firm who stay very busy nowadays, just because this is such a hot topic for so many people. And a lot for my larger clients, I'm bringing them in a lot of times just to have somebody take a look and, just make sure you have everything in place, because they are getting more sophisticated. I mean, I fell victim to phishing the other day at our firm where our IT department sends it out and I just forgot
Yeah.
to check the email address. So it's so easy to do when you just get busy and you're going to check those emails and move through them. So yes,
Okay, thank
definitely
you.
something to be top of mind.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Um, I see the same trends here that I do at other municipalities. Payroll is always the big one. For you guys, the police contract is big because you contract, and that's something that not everybody has. But for the most part, and you also have a lot of grants that are coming through and a lot of build out that you're doing still with like infrastructure for the city that's a little bit unique, as opposed to like new build out, whereas other cities are replacing things that have been around. I have not noticed anything that I can think of right off the top of my head. We don't dig too much into the expenditures except for looking at fluctuations from year to year. So I would have to dig a little more to give you more specifics on that. I I don't know the answer to that. I feel like Wildwood is unique. It's one of the furthest west that I audit, so you're probably my newest city. Certainly something I can take back and ask those within our group. We also have a very large public sector practice in our Denver office as well, and they might have some more information on newer cities and how, as they're aging, what the impact. I would guess at the 50-year mark, you're starting to look at more, replacement of infrastructure costs and things like that are, just aging that's going to happen. But I will ask around and get back on that one. Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Albers.
Oh, just to comment on that, I know the Post-Dispatch is doing a article on longevity in Wildwood. I know they've interviewed Joe about it. I don't know when it's coming out. At a senior yoga class, they were there taking pictures recently. So I think Wildwood might have one of the highest longevity ages in the county, from what I heard. FYI.
All right. Anybody have anything else? All righty. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always interesting. All right. Up next, we will need a motion to go into an executive session. This would be under RSMO 610.012 subsection 1. Anybody care to make the motion? Ms. Dodwell, seconded by Mr. Marshall. Roll call vote, I believe, right, Megan? All righty.
Councilmember Edens. Councilmember Ottenberg. Councilmember Dodwell. Councilmember Marshall.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Galani.
Yes.
Councilmember Preston.
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry.
Yes.
Councilmember Nian.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Farmer.
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yeah.
Councilmember Crayons. Councilmember Albers.
All right. Motion carries. We are going to move over to the room next door. So if you folks just want to hang tight here for a few minutes, we shall return. Ready for your patience while we had our executive session. We're gonna move forward with our four information items. If there's anything anybody has specifically they wanted to ask about, now would be the time. If not, we can move forward. Anybody got anything under four information? Going once. Going twice. All right. With that, we will move to the four action items. Up first, we've got planning and parks. I assume Mr. Vunich, let's hear about the playground.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council, the Planning and Parks Committee considered at its last meeting a potential change to the master plan for Village Green. The change isn't necessarily substantial, but it is a change. As part of phase 2 of Village Green, there has always been anticipated some type of playground feature that would be part of it. That playground feature would highlight a nature theme, as well as have some type of water feature associated with it. Whether that's a splash pad or multiple splash pads, not quite sure. As I mentioned, the Planning and Parks Committee at its June meeting considered an alternative to that type of playground. And that alternative would be one that would be unlimited play or fully accessible to a full range of users. The company that had been engaged by the City Council at the start of this year presented a compelling argument for that change based upon just the statistics associated with their desirability, the usability, and just the simple fact that they become quite a bit of the community's identity. So tonight, the Planning and Parks Committee is presenting to the City Council an endorsement to further consider that change and engage the company that has provided the concept to proceed forward with development of a more defined concept for ultimate consideration. If there are any questions, I would defer to Chair Galani of the committee as well as the department. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Ms. McCutcheon.
So does this negate the swings and further development in Glencoe Park?
This would move the playground from the original location, which was, as you've mentioned, Ms. McCutcheon, Glencoe City Park to Village Green.
And then are we going to do any further additions to Glencoe Park?
I think you'll see in the fall when we talk about the budget for the park side of the department, we are going to reuse those swings that we removed from Anniversary Park and install them down there. But that'll be a budget item that we'll discuss at that time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Mr. Marshall.
So if the numbers are correct, it looks as if that was a $1.8 million project down in Glencoe. And it looks like that's what we have budgeted in town, Village Green. It's about a wash.
It's actually going to be probably a positive with the change because, as you know, the master plan for Village Green was completed shortly right after the pandemic, 2021, 2022. As you know, the prices associated with almost everything, particularly playground equipment, have escalated substantially. So the estimate we received in June is a June 2024 estimate.
Anybody else? All right, Mr. Vunich, what are you looking for this evening?
The department would respectfully request a motion second endorsing the next step in the relocation of the unlimited play facility to Village Green.
All right. Would anybody care to make that motion? Mr. Krantz makes a motion. Mr. Rambo seconds it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Up next, reoccupancy permit program for rental units.
Again, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council, before the department begins its presentation on the committee's recommendation, it would like to acknowledge that Melanie Ripito, the Assistant Director of the department, was integral in the development of this particular subject. had worked extensively with St. Louis County on addressing a number of questions. And so tonight, I just want to acknowledge her role in the development of this report. The report is favorable toward creating a reoccupancy permit program for all rental units in the city of Wildwood. Rental units would include multiple family types, condominiums, and probably most importantly, in some regards, single-family detached dwellings. As is identified in the report from the committee, recently, over the last several years, primarily it seems as a function of the pandemic, single-family detached dwellings have become almost the preferred rental type in many communities. In fact, we believe in Wildwood, there are as many as 900 rental units, many of them single-family detached dwellings that are not owner-occupied. The committee did a thorough analysis of the impacts of this type of reoccupancy permit program on the city of Wildwood. That thorough process included 2 open houses where we accepted comments from the public. The comments generally were about timeframes, cost, and how the program would address code violations that exist in single-family detached dwellings or other units that had been there for a period of time. The committee accepted the recommendations that were provided by the department, which were developed through an inventory of other communities that apply similar types of programs already in the area. And for the most part, the feeling is that these questions, although certainly important, were not enough to, let's say, not necessarily proceed forward. As part of the committee's analysis too, the relationship with St. Louis County was identified and investigated. And ultimately, St. Louis County is willing to proceed forward with providing these inspections for the city, much like all of the other inspections that are already and have been provided under the building code, residential code, plumbing code, et cetera. So tonight, the department via the committee is asking for a motion and second and vote to authorize the preparation of legislation to adopt a residential reoccupancy program for rental unit only. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rottenberg.
Director Vunich, could you provide sort of a thumbnail sketch of the things that the reoccupancy permit program would review when a change in tenants takes place? And then maybe also items that some people might think should be inspected, but which would not be part of this program. But second part of that question is kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, and I apologize.
That's fine, sir. For the purposes of this process, it's important to note that the city already has a number of codes that address the exterior of a property or a building. They're the property maintenance code, the grading code, the nuisance code. So much of what we're talking about under this new program, reoccupancy, is more for the interior. And the typical things that we discovered are investigated on an inspection of this nature are GFIs, things along those lines. Many times what you'll see is they're not the appropriate type, or they're just older and not what you would anticipate to have. It looks at the fire alarms or the smoke detectors, making sure that all bedrooms have a smoke detector associated with them, as well as the passageways leading into and out of the home. There's also just general maintenance of things in terms of the interior, making sure that there is no, let's say, leaks, things along those lines that would create a mold issue, things that would affect public health, as well as the tenants that would reside there. In terms of just what we would not necessarily expect or would expect to be investigated and are not, for the most part, we leave these do not look at appliances, whether there have been, let's say, there are requirements now for dishwashers, ranges, microwaves to have permits as part of that. Oftentimes, those are done by the installer or the company where you purchase them from. But my understanding is we're really looking at those things that create a life safety issue.
Just as a follow-up question then, regarding the exterior of a building, what would you look at in terms of considering this reoccupancy permit?
It's a very good question. And one of the first things that reoccupancy looks at is just if the addresses are visible from the street. They're critical for responses from EMS, fire, and police. So oftentimes those are sometimes not visible. Even if they are on a mailbox, they're rusted or just not painted, so they're visible. And then on the house itself, things we look at again, for the most part, are if the gutters are functional, the downspouts, and screens. Screens are required so as that flies and other vector does not enter into the house. For the most part, the property maintenance code takes over from there. If there's mold on the facades, if there's just missing facade boards or the roof itself. So property maintenance and usage generally take over from there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Would anybody care to make the motion to proceed? Ms. Edens will make the motion. Ms. Dodwell seconds it. All those in favor of moving forward with the department's recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes.
And Mayor Pro Tem, again, I'd like to thank the committee members for their thorough review and the assistance they gave the department during this process.
Excellent. All right, up next, we have a city council item, which is a discussion on the Latitude North 38 development. And for those of you that may or may not be aware, there's some conversations going back and forth between the city and the developers. So does anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts, anything they would like to start with? Mr. Galani.
Sorry. In lieu of the fact that there's been a lot of discussion around this subject and the conditions were prepared and presented to the developer, I know there was a meeting this afternoon to have initial discussions regarding that. I was just going to make a motion to postpone this so that we could have those conversations and make sure that before we move to potentially prepare legislation that we've got everything done right. And everybody's on the same page, because I don't think that it would make sense to move forward with that process before we have everything else ironed out in agreement from both sides. So I'll make that motion.
All right, we've got a motion, seconded by Mr. Albers.
When is it getting postponed to?
When would you like to have it postponed to?
The August meeting.
Next month? All right. We've got a first. You good with that? Second? Okay. All those in favor of postponing this until next month, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we will revisit it again next month. Lastly, we've got receipt and file on a couple items. I assume, Mr. Bunich, this is you again?
Yes, sir. You're stuck with me at the podium for a little bit longer. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council, the item that department will present in detail relates to a conditional use permit that was granted over 20 years ago for a telecommunications tower that is located on the northeast corner of Clayton and Strecker Roads. As with any conditional use permit that is acted upon by the Planning and Zoning Commission, City Council has the authority to exercise power of review. If power of review is exercised, then the matter is taken up by the City Council for further consideration. In this particular case, the request before the Planning and Zoning Commission was for a favorable action on its yearly extension of the permit itself. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did grant that yearly extension, which would carry over to 2025. As part of that action, there are a number of items that were identified that need to be addressed at the site. These unfortunately are fairly typical items, but again, we are making progress slowly but surely. As we were discussing this particular matter at the Planning and Zoning Commission, the representative for the tower company, which owns the facility, did email Mr. Dewberry and I, and said that they would certainly address those within that 60-day window and avoid having the Planning and Zoning Commission post this matter for the permits revocation. So tonight, you have a favorable action on a yearly renewal. And if there are any questions, the department would be glad to try to answer them at this time. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Okay. Last up would be, I guess, an adjourn. Well, before we get to the adjournment, I guess I'm just going to ask real quick. If there are no objections, I'd like to just shift one thing around in our main meeting here that's coming up, which is to just move my little announcements up ahead of the public participation so people know who I am. So if nobody objects, we'll do that. All right, great. Then we just need to have a motion to adjourn the work session. Mr. Ottenberg, anybody care to second it? Mr. Albers, all those in favor of adjourning the work session, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right. If our audience wouldn't mind giving us just a couple minutes in case anybody needs to make a stop in the restroom, we should be getting started here in about 5 minutes. we can kind of get into position, we can get this thing started. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the July meeting of the Wildwood City Council. We'll start with our roll call.
Mayor Garitano, Councilmember Brost, Councilmember Edens. Here. Councilmember Ottenberg, Councilmember Dodwell. Here. Councilmember Marshall, Councilmember Jaxi.
Here.
Councilmember Hopper,
Here.
Councilmember Galani,
Here.
Councilmember Preston,
Here.
Councilmember Mabry.
Here.
Councilmember Nyan. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon. Here. Councilmember Rambo.
Here.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers.
All right. I don't think we have anybody doing the flags this evening. So if you are comfortably able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we're going to have the approval of minutes on our consent agenda. And for those of you that might not have been in here right at the end of the work session, we're just going to reconfigure the agenda here just a little bit, which is to move my announcements up next, which is to say, I am Joe Farmer. I'm one of the representatives from Ward 4. I serve as the Mayor Pro Tem, and as such, this evening, I will be facilitating the meeting as Mayor Garitano is out of town. In my role as Mayor Pro Tem, I do just that. I facilitate the meeting. I still retain my vote on issues. I don't get the additional authority to break a tie if one were to exist. So I just kind of play referee this evening. Very exciting stuff. I did also want to add just really briefly that, you know, we had a rough weekend where we had a terrible act of violence. And I just wanted to say that kind of regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum or anything else, I just want you to keep in mind that all of the people that sit up here on a dais or at a state house or at the Capitol or the White House or whatever, those people that work for these different governmental bodies, we're just people. We have families. So keep that in mind when you post things online or you say things. Those words affect people. All right, moving forward, let's do some public participation. Very quickly, public comment is a valuable component of our meeting. Anyone who wishes to speak must complete a speaker card and provide it to the city clerk, who is seated just to the left of the podium. When your name is called, please approach the podium and state your name and ward. To ensure that all who wish to speak have the opportunity to do so, there's a 5-minute time limitation. I will let you know when that time limit has been reached. If you have any questions for us, please mention that during your remarks and identify the official you would like to respond. That official will make note of it, and at the conclusion of the public participation, any official who chooses to respond will have 3 minutes to do so to any questions directed at that official. The official may choose to respond to your questions after tonight's meeting. Please be respectful to others in making your remarks. Interrupting others and using profane and abusive language are prohibited. I want to thank everyone in advance for following these guidelines. Ms. Eldridge.
The first speaker card is Lauren Edens.
Thank you. Lauren Edens, Ward 2. Ready when you are?
To you.
Okay. This is the second time I've been down here since I've been elected. The first time was to say goodbye to Councilmember Bartoni. So you know if I'm down here, it's because it's really important and I really care about the issue. And I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem for his comments earlier. I know it feels like a scary, dangerous time in our city with the assassination attempt this week. And I just want to say, I got some advice once, which is we can't fix everything going on, but what we can do is cut off our little slice of the pie and make it better. And so what I'm talking about tonight is how we make our community safer and also kinder in how we care for others. So I'm speaking tonight with the group Citizens Supporting Monarch Fire Protection District. in support of their ballot initiative in the August election. And how I became involved in this effort was through a community outreach program they did. So after being a frustrated council member through the Station 2 approval debacle, I channeled my frustration into finding out how I could help, learn more, and advocate. As members of Monarch Next, we learned the trends that were facing the district, what projected growth would look like, and what their current and future capabilities would be. And so we asked ourselves what we needed to do to make a better, safer, and faster response. We then presented that to the community through engagement events and through surveys. And what the community resoundingly said is we recognize that there's a need, and we actually recommend a ballot initiative to increase property tax, which is a big ask. But really, this ask is about being selfish, right? So I want you to picture your closest fire department, where your emergency response comes from, whether or not you live in the Monarch area. And I want you to ask yourself, what if there's only one ambulance and what if it's busy? Or if you live in Wildwood in Station 2, there is no ambulance right now, and there won't be unless this passes at the new Station 2. There are 5 station houses in the Monarch District and only 4 ambulances. That's 1 for every 20,000 people. And I'm not trying to scare you. It's just that the facts are that scary. It's actually pretty terrifying. Right now, if that ambulance is busy in the valley, that response has to come from Cottleville. There's an increasing population right now. That population is aging. The stresses on the system are getting worse and worse and worse, which affects you personally. And even if you don't live in Monarch, only about a third of us do, you're still driving and shopping in the areas that they protect. And so we want to make sure that they have the tools to save our lives. This is a selfish vote. Do you love yourself and do you love your neighbor enough to make sure that your life can be saved? That's all this is. That's all it really comes down to. And so I want you to also ask, do you want to make sure that the people protecting us are safe as well? What I learned in committee outreach, and I didn't know this before, is that the leading cause of death right now for our firefighter and paramedics is actually cancer. Did anybody else know that? Yes, great. Great, thank you. One of the contributing factors, or the most contributing factor, is actually PFAS-related equipment. So this equipment that is built to shed water and keep them safe actually contains cancer-causing chemicals, and they are absorbing that at a higher rate when their pores are open when exposed to heat and different conditions. And so what this ballot initiative does as well is also put that equipment on a replacement schedule. So it hires 21 new staff members, buys 2 new ambulances for the district, and it's going to replace that equipment. And all for the low, low price. If you have a roughly assessed value of $400,000 for a house, this is just an example, ballpark, it'd be about an additional $12 a month. And for some people that may break the bank, but I ask you also, how much is your life worth? And if you don't support this, are you okay with the consequences? Right now, you could be waiting up to 12 minutes for emergency response. I have been in the room when our deputy chief and our chief have gotten a call and there has been nothing left to dispatch. That is terrifying because it can happen to any one of us, and the likelihood that it will continue to happen is increasing without this passing. That's why I care so much. If you can't tell, that's why I've been having bad dreams about this. So I want you to join me in voting for Prop A on the ballot. And if you can't vote because you don't live there, I want you to tell your friends about it. I want you to write social media posts. I want you to consider volunteering and going door to door with me on the weekend. So go to yesformonarch.com and please vote yes August 6th. Your life depends on it, and the other ones you love do too. Thanks.
Next speaker card.
The next speaker card is Chief Russ Adams and Deputy Chief Nick Smith.
Good evening. Thank you. I don't know why we're up here. She pretty much covered everything. Realistically, though, the reason we are up here is more for the informational side. She is the yes side, we're the informational side. The informational side, we just pulled some numbers right before we came here, in fact, because we wanted to show you that. The call load has exploded over the last 20 years. And just this year alone, we are up 500 calls just through the end of June. That equates to 83 calls a month. That equates to 14 calls a day extra in EMS calls that we're running. We run 4 ambulances and we cover 67.2 square miles of land. We have 5 engine houses. We only have 4 ambulances. It's not me. All of our neighboring departments, one of them, the next biggest to us, is Metro West. Metro West has 5 houses. They run 5 ambulances. We rely on mutual aid. We rely on mutual aid. We offer mutual aid. That means when our district needs an ambulance or needs a fire truck and we're out of it, other districts come in. As Councilwoman Eden said, if something happens in the valley and our ambulance at our House 5 on Long Road is out, you will wait for St. Charles County ambulance. So if you have a heart attack in Walmart and our House 5 is out, since we don't have House 2 to come down, you're waiting for House 3 to come from their House 3, I'm sorry, in Cottleville to come over. If you're in the middle of our city, the main channel of Chesterfield, our highest run area, then you're waiting on Metro West, you're waiting on Creve Coeur, you're waiting on West County. And if their ambulances are busy, then it just keeps moving further and further out. The other day when they had the active shooting up in North County, that strips a lot of ambulances because of that response. So all that staff and supplies are running to a call, and now all these cities behind that are going to be left empty. We have not seen a tax increase for the Monarch Fire Protection District since 1980. We are the lowest tax rate in a fire service, and you can look it up, in any of the West County area, St. Louis County area, St. Charles County area. If you go to my hometown of Dardenne Prairie, you will pay more for fire and EMS than you will pay in Monarch. And the service over there is an ambulance on every corner like a McDonald's and a fire truck just as close. We have been working in our means. We have scraped, we have cut, we have trimmed, we have done everything we can. We are not asking for a tax increase for pensions. We are not asking for pay raises. We are asking to staff 2 ambulances with 21 new firefighter paramedics. And as Councilwoman Eden said, to replace gear that is causing cancer. We have lost 3 firefighters. Excuse me. I am a victim of stage 4 skin cancer. I was off for 3 months having multiple surgeries for that. We have to step up and make this happen. And I'm coming to you, giving you information. Please, any questions you have, go to our website. Tonight, I entertain you to ask any questions of myself. My name is Russ Adams. I'm the fire chief. This is my deputy chief, Nick Smith. He is deputy chief of EMS. And as I said, the reason I bring him here is because this is what it's going to help the most, is his side of my department. Any questions?
Just public comment.
Yeah.
We'll have some
Okay.
folks reach out to you.
Thank you.
Next speaker card.
The next speaker card is Penny Siebert.
Great, thanks. I'm coming to you to talk about, first of all, can you hear me?
What's your name and ward, please?
I'm Penny Seibert, and I am in Ward 8, and I live on Canberry. I'm coming to you to talk about multiple development units that are being discussed in our area. Latitude, Village Green, the apartments going up on Taylor and Manchester. I understand the goal of the town center plan to address both commercial and residential density so that we meet both needs within our community while also preserving the ability to promote walkability, enjoyment of the outdoors, use of bicycles, etc. I do have some concern, though, about the infrastructure to handle this growth, particularly in traffic. I live in the Canberry subdivision. I use Etherton Road to access Manchester, or I use Main Street, access 109. Main Street has been developed in a way that will handle this growth from my layperson's point of view. There are sidewalks, there are curbs, there are shoulders. It is very easy to walk and to drive in that area. I looked for a traffic study for Etherton and couldn't find anything more recent than 2018. My house wasn't even built in 2018. So I'm concerned about, do we even know what the impact of bringing all of these homes and cars into this area will be? I don't know that we know that information. I couldn't find it in my looking in our website. Crestview, to my knowledge, again, I'm peripherally involved here, but it is my understanding that Crestview is privately owned. And Main Street dead ends at Etherton, Crestview begins and is going to go into where Village Green is. There appears to be no way to promote traffic to flow through there. Does that mean that all of the traffic from the 57 or however many homes end up being built with Latitude will dump out onto Etherton? Etherton currently is extremely narrow, has no sidewalks, no shoulder, and undulates, therefore creating many blind spots. It is a path that is used by many walkers and bikers, as well as cars, and it is a mode that people use to get to our wonderful walking path. There's a gym in our community that has classes that have high schoolers running after school and people running in the mornings. It's wonderful. But if you pour 100 cars onto that road from the Latitude development, I'm wondering about the safety of all of us involved. Certainly, Main Street can handle increased traffic and Manchester can, but the side roads in my neighborhood certainly cannot. We can barely handle the traffic, let alone the parking that we need. So I just ask that you look into this. I understand our need to grow. I understand our need to meet both residential and commercial needs, but it seems to me that we need to have the infrastructure going alongside of that, if not beforehand. It seems pretty irresponsible to develop and then look to see, oh shoot, now we need an increase in infrastructure. I have heard and been told that there is a plan in place to improve Etherton. Again, I looked on our website and could find nothing about that. So I'm wondering what that actually entails. Does it actually exist? Could plans for that be made public so that we could look at them? I just ask that you take all of this into careful consideration as we try to grow what is being labeled as the crown jewel of our community. Thank you.
Next speaker.
The next speaker card is Sue Cullinane.
Hello. My name is Sue Cullinane. Alas, I live in Chesterfield, but I'm one of the founders of this incredible city. And I'm here tonight to thank all of you elected officials from the bottom of my heart. You're the ones who stood up and said, I'll do it. And you went out and got signatures and you put your name on the ballot. You ordered some yard signs and you started knocking on doors, and here you are. Congratulations. Because you're the reason we fought so hard to form this city. I know it was about the environment, it was about trees, it was about zoning and all of those things, but all of those things really are encapsulated in something that my good friend Marianne Simmons and I recognized in 1987 when we were driving Clayton every week to discuss with the county planning department and the county council the incredible stupid plans they were approving out here. And that's this. Big decisions were being made that affected this area. And those decisions were being made by people who did not live. Most of them had never set foot here. And none of them loved the place like we did. And I remember after we got through the 109 thing with improvements, if you recall. We were at a meeting and Marianne and I presented our thesis to the people that were part of the incorporation. And they were kind of, oh. And one guy stood up and said, oh, I guess we're going to have to farm a new city. That'll be easy. Wasn't easy. It was real hard. But it was worth all the blood, sweat, and tears, truly. And I think back when the city was incorporated, early on, we had to write a master plan and we needed help. And we got help from incredible people from across the country, professionals, one of whom was a guy named Jonathan Barnett. Jonathan is a world-renowned architect and urban planner, and he came to Wildwood to help with that, making a bulletproof master plan, as Joe can attest. Jonathan has written a number of books, and since 1995, all of them mention Wildwood, and his latest book has an entire chapter on Wildwood. Anyway, Jonathan came back for the 10-year master plan update. And I was fortunate that I was part of that committee. And I remember wonderful discussions and people had great ideas. And finally, one guy stood up and he said, Jonathan, surely with all the hundreds of cities that you've advised on how to make them livable, surely one of them could be an example for Wildwood. And Jonathan smiled and said, no, Wildwood is the example. We must never forget that. My dad always said, you need to leave a place better than you found it. And I think you all have done that. You and the people who came before you and sat in those chairs, you've kept the vision of Wildwood exactly as the founders envisioned it. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Tim.
Next speaker.
The next speaker card is Lynn Link.
Lynn Link, Ward 6. It was amazing to hear her speak. I always love hearing the founders. I'm here to speak against Latitude 38. On June 12th, I posted on Nextdoor about the proposed TV Benton development, asking for public input to bring before the council. There were over 3,900 views, dozens of responses and comments. No one on that post or any person I met said that they were for this development. Reasons given were too dense, surfacing of soil toxins, asbestos abatement, increased water runoff and erosion on nearby property, lower water pressure, increased traffic, low quality of other Benton developments, rental concerns, TB Realty's lack of maintenance on existing properties, and, quote, when we moved to Wildwood, we wanted to avoid this type of development. Bosworth has been trying to develop this land since 2017. West Magazine reported in 2020 that Bosworth referred to the prior denial of the council as, quote, unrealistic, political, and crap. Sorry. The prior P&Z Commission and the council have again denied this development after listening to the valid concerns of citizens, which still have not been addressed by the developer. That unified voice tells you unequivocally that this development is wrong for Wildwood, and it's your duty and obligation to vote against it to keep the citizens and the environment safe. In December 2022, the Missouri Supreme Court, in the B.G. Olive et al. Versus the City of Creve Coeur, in bank opinion, affirmed your full legal authority to deny this development. Morally, you have the authority and a minimum standard to keep the citizens safe from developers who would put their lives at risk. As Wildwood's past industrial history is well known, especially with smokestack emissions, the minimum standard would be to require Bosworth to test for soil toxins before any soil is disrupted and spread to nearby properties. As the 4 houses will be demolished, were built during periods when asbestos was used in insulation, fire bricking, wallboard adhesive, caulking, flooring, and ceiling tiles, proper abatement is necessary for the safety of nearby residents and is required by the DNR. DNR requirements mandate that prior to demolition of two or more structures, a certified inspector must inspect each structure, identify potential asbestos, take samples, submit them to a laboratory with chain of custody certification, and generate a report with an analytical results identifying amount, location, category, and condition of suspected materials and submit it to the DNR. Has Mr. Bosworth given the city a copy of this report? We don't need to speculate on what the properties will look like or how they will be maintained, as we can look at Benton St. Charles County rentals. In January of 2023, then Council Member Garitano brought up problems area residents voiced with their neighborhood rentals. Looking at the photos of these developments on Google Map, you can see the extreme density and low quality. Here are some of the complaints of residents who lives in Benton's Creekside Landing, Springwell, and Alpine Heights. Neighbors constantly blast their music so you can hear it down the block. Haven't been able to sleep. Dog poop everywhere. Trash in your yard driveway. Maintenance came over dozens of times. Wiring is crap. Simple repairs take weeks. Doesn't have visitor parking. Walls are paper thin and our neighbor's dog won't stop barking. Very loud trucks. The kids love to bass out. I expect Creekside to be sued. Lawn was about 4 feet high. Half of the appliances broken when we moved in. AC isn't working. Shower leaking through ceilings multiple times. People have parked behind me overnight. This place is a dump. Almost run over by speeding resident. Sexually harassed at the pool. Neighbors dumping litter boxes in shared spaces. Multiple items stolen out of my townhouse. Grounds are a mess. Stairwells filthy, drugs everywhere, no smoking rule not enforced, 40 to 45 vehicles parked on the streets on both sides. Wiring is, quote, half-assed. Flickering lights, mice droppings, urine all over my townhouse, and living here is like living in prison where you pay the rent. If you allow this development, all these real issues will not only be brought to Wildwood, but will also be in full view of Village Green, so that residents and visitors alike will see how you failed them in your primary duty to abide by the will of your constituents. Thank you.
Next speaker card.
The next speaker card is Tim Comer.
My name's Tim Comer. I live at 2460 Etherton Road. My property will immediately border PB 38 development. I can 100% tell you what Lynn said is true. I've visited these establishments. I have 2 people that would come and speak toward the city. I told them I didn't want to bring them because I know that they will just kick them out. And these people expressed that they have credit problems already and they probably wouldn't be able to find a new place to live. So, but they are still willing to come. And at a future meeting, we may have them. Real quick, I want to touch base on the first speaker with the infrastructure. It's not there. Even the new Main Street that goes through Main Street crossing. I'll just give you an example. When Amazon comes, he parks his truck right on Main Street. He gets out, he goes to 4 or 5 houses. He figures, oh, I can't find that there. He leaves his truck there for 15 minutes. So back to the fire department's issue. So if we got an emergency, okay, now we got Main Street blocked with an Amazon vehicle. Can't get through. There's nowhere for Amazon to deliver. So that's a huge problem. So there needs to be a place for parking for every unit. You can't just say, oh, well, we gave them a back alley, they can park there. That's not going to work. I've lived on Etherton Road for 20 plus years. It is worn out. It cannot take the traffic. 80% of the people going down Etherton Road are exceeding the speed limit by 10 miles per hour. 2 tickets were written on Etherton last year. So it's not patrolled. There's no rules. And before I get too far on the infrastructure, I want to talk about my property because I butt next to this. And during our last rain, I went out in the rain. I took lots of pictures and somehow I will send an email to Megan and she will send all these pictures to all of you because the immediate yard next to me had inches of rain sitting in the driveway, in the yard, and it just all runs to me. Okay. I've taken it for 20 years because I knew my neighbors since I was a baby. Okay. This is a problem. It's only going to get worse. It's just green space now. Just imagine when they build all these high density homes. It won't take it. And the last meeting, a council members, said, not in my backyard. Well, that's the way we present it to you because you wouldn't want it in your backyard, eroding all of your property away. And I think that was a rude comment because that's the way we express it to you. Would you want this next to you? And I can tell you your answer is no way, Jose. You don't want it. You don't want it for all the problems it brings, but mainly you don't want it because it will ruin my land. It will just erode it away. And who's on the hook? Well, I had a meeting with Mr. Vunich. They hold a special amount of money for a couple years. If it doesn't erode, they get it back. But if it erodes after that, the city's on the hook. So is the city going to be responsible solely for my land in the future, 5 years after this is built? I also asked Mr. Vunich if this has to go through, which none of us has ever said, don't build anything there. But if this has to go through, I am proposing that a 3-foot berm be built bordering the entire property on my side, all the way to the new Village Green, a 3-foot berm, and then put a 6-foot fence on top of it. This will stop a lot of noise. It will stop light pollution. And I think that is the least they could do for me. These folks have never come talk to me. Never. They've never come and asked me, hey, Tim, what can we do for you? We want to work with you. They say they want to work with people, but they don't ever come and talk to Eddie. And this is just foolish. If you guys approve this and it destroys my property, as soon as it's built, my land value goes nowhere. And I don't even see how you can consciously even consider it after planning and zoning has denied it twice. That's their job. That's their job. If they say no, it should be no. You don't just appeal it to council. It should be no. That's planning and zoning's job. And they've had a big hard no twice. And I think you need
How
to
much you got
consider
left?
that. Huh?
How much you got left?
Couple seconds.
All right.
But, when we say we don't want this, it's not because it's in our backyard. Build some houses. Build 40 of them, not 57. And make sure the infrastructure is right. Because Heatherton Road is not getting improved. It's not going to happen. The only way you can improve is on my side. And you'll have to move gas, water, sewer, millions of dollars. Not going to happen.
Next speaker.
The next speaker card is Debbie Donaldson.
Hello, I'm Debbie Donaldson. I live in Ward 8. And there's several thoughts, a lot of research I've done since the last meeting. The last meeting was very, very alarming for a lot of reasons. First of all, comparing our housing market to San Francisco, it's not appropriate. It's a completely different housing market. That would be like me pulling comps in my business or Wildwood and comparing it to Ladue. Not even close to similar municipalities. If you're not familiar with the rule of 33 in real estate, here it is. Based on the birth rate 33 years ago, in any given year, which was especially high in 1991. I gave birth to my son in 1992. You can look back at 33 years ago and you can figure out what the housing needs are going to be. And those born in 1991 have reached the age of having their own families for the most part, we generalize. And boomers are not moving. you know, the generation which refuses to get old and has bionic knees and hips, they're staying in their homes longer. Add to that the housing crash of 08 and 09, where many builders went out of business. That created the perfect storm for our housing shortage. And that is how Canberra came to be built by McBride Homes, because GMB Builders, Greater Missouri Builders, went out of business. And so McBride was very smart. They didn't sit on a lot of land like a lot of builders. And so they bought up the land that builders went bankrupt with. And so they built our detached villas. I went and I took Tony up on his offer, and I went and visited his developments. They're not as classy as one would think. I have a design background. I used to do hand-drawn renderings. I'm showing my age a little bit. Those are beautiful renderings off a computer. They look great, but in reality, they're not. Toys scattered everywhere, trash cans sitting out, tipped over. I could go on and on. They're not pretty. They don't fit the vibe that I think Wildwood wants to project. I looked at their sites. Every single one of their sites markets the homes this way. Our upscale multifamily neighborhood provides you with all the benefits of a home without the, wait for the word, commitment of mortgages and maintenance. That is alarming to me. I encourage the council to study the impact of this housing on home values and on the local school district. I recently represented the sale of a home. The appraiser actually thought townhomes were apartments. And they were in the complex, and they dinged the appraisal. It's very rare to get an appraiser to admit they made a mistake. I fought it tooth and nail, and I got it adjusted. Penny talked about the traffic study. She's right. We can find nothing about it. And I drive down Etherton every day. It is a dangerous road. I think that the city has a responsibility to the residents, all residents, and residents who come from other communities to use our wonderful trails to make sure that residents are safe, not just ambulances. And I have a daughter who's an ER doctor, so I understand safety. So please consider that. The worst thing she does is go tell somebody they've lost a loved one. Horrible. NIMBY. No, we're not worried about it being in our backyard. What we are is we're concerned about the crown jewel having it in the front yard. And that we've been waiting. I moved to Wildwood to be near that. And I'm excited about it, but this has kind of taken the luster off of it. And last of all, what's in demand? Villas. Villas are in demand. And as Director Vunich mentioned about single family residences are in demand for rentals. And I'm president of our HOA in Canberra, and I just stopped the sale. I had to be the bad guy because a realtor did not get our full indentures. And we have an Amendment 5 to our indentures. And a lot of people think indentures are just suggestions, and then they don't realize that they're filed at Clayton and they're legal. And she called me and said, hey, can you make an exception? Can you let this go to this investor? And we have a hardcore amendment. I said, no. She had to get him out of the contract. So there's a reason for that we have that. And I implore you to think highly before you go forward with this, because the future of Wildwood, I believe, depends on it. Thank you.
Travis, are we good?
Yes, sir. We did lose about 45 seconds worth of audio there, but looks should be back and running.
Great. Next speaker card.
The next speaker card is Chris Degens.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. My name is Chris Degens. I'm representing Fisher and Pritchell Custom Homes. Our address is 695 Trade Center Boulevard, Chesterfield, Missouri 63005. I'd just like to briefly make some comments regarding Bill 2879 for the point at Brightleaf. The information contained in the city's formal recommendation report and within Bill 2879 tonight is quite detailed and thorough. I appreciate all of the council's time spent both reviewing that and the staff's time preparing these documents. We believe the detail in these documents is a direct outcome of embracing and following the city's planning process over the past 12 months. Both FNF Homes and St. Luke's have worked hard to ensure we followed that process and allow for it to happen. To recap briefly, we received positive input to proceed from city leaders and representatives to redevelop this commercially zoned property with single-family homes at the DZRC meeting in July of 2023. At that time and since, we have consistently maintained this property located in town center is a redevelopment property, and most stakeholders agree that our proposal is a continuation of the adjoining Brightleaf project with single-family neighborhood homes, and it makes logical sense for the area. We have consistently used this principle as a guide to both learn from and direct this proposal. During the P&Z process, we incorporated public and city input to create a compatible neighborhood plan and design, which is less dense than any of the adjoining properties. It adheres to an established street network and pattern that has been in place along Taylor Road and started with the villages of Brightleaf. It completes Taylor Road to city standards all the way to its intersection with 109 and includes a planned park with lake, fountain, and associated landscaping on its western end. This park will mirror the existing Brightleaf entry near town center's entrance. As discussed at the April board meeting, yes, there are additional details that we'll address in many ways as we proceed. All of these details have been identified by city staff in the aforementioned reports and the ordinance, and they will be addressed in the site development plan stage. They are not foreign to a project at this stage or unique to this proposal of the property. They, in fact, are very common. The 22-page attachment A and 16-page ordinance outlines directives and procedures that we are to follow and address as the site development plan stage occurs. Thank you again for the time you've invested in reviewing this proposal and the reports. We are respectfully asking for your vote to approve and implement the zoning for single-family use of this property as it detailed in the attachments. Doing so will allow us to proceed to the site development plan stage and begin addressing the details that have been raised. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker card is Linda Heron.
Linda Heron, Ward 8, Pro Tem Mayor, Council. I'm also here to speak on latitude 38. Everything has already been said. There's no need to repeat that. I am also one who is not anti-development. I just, like everyone here, has a big problem with the fact that these are rental units. I can honestly stand in front of all of you and say, I have no idea which direction this is going to go when it's all said and done. Like Mr. Kumar, I also thought that at the zoning and planning meeting that this was over, but we're talking about it again. And I am the second property that runs across the perimeter of this development. So it goes from the end of Mr. Kumar's backyard all the way down through the end of my backyard to the park. So what I am here requesting tonight is that if you choose to go ahead with this development, that you do put along the perimeter, or I'm sorry, you don't put, you insist that the developer includes in his final plan along our perimeter a 3 to 4 foot berm and a privacy fence. This will address the erosion issues, let it all swale toward MSDs. It will help with the lighting, it will help with the noise, it will help with what appears to be some unsightliness that could be a potential problem for us with our neighbors. We also, based on the development plans that we have seen, we will have 6 properties that will run across the perimeter of our properties. And since generally speaking, rental tenants are more transient than the rest of us, we can assume that at least one time, if not multiple times a year, we are going to have new neighbors moving in and out behind us. We may sometimes have really great neighbors. We may have considerate neighbors. We may have kind neighbors, but there's also times that we are going to have neighbors from hell. And at least give us the opportunity to protect our investment. Mr. Coomer has worked hard to maintain his property. We have worked hard to make sure that we have our area and it's kept well and it looks well. And to his point, if this was in your backyard, you would want your investment protected. You would want to make sure your investment retained its value, looked great, was well preserved. It just was a place you could continue to enjoy. So I just implore that if you decide to go ahead with this, just please insist that part of the plan includes some degree of berm and privacy fence so that we can protect our property as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration.
Next speaker card.
Next speaker card is Sandra Bryan.
Good evening, Sandra Bryan, Etherton Road. I would like to address the water pressure issues surrounding the project. The existing infrastructure needs updating before any new builds are considered. Overload on the existing system is in place, is not being addressed. It has been brought up, but nothing has been said about fixing the problem. The lack of roads accommodating this area is not being considered either. Etherton Road, it was closed and dead-ended for a reason. I think we need to see the traffic survey brought up in the last meeting. I doubt it was favorable. Show us that document, please. Our area was designated rural. Changing it to anything otherwise is just using semantics to accommodate others' agenda. I don't know if my neighbors are aware of the proposed 9 homes on 3 acres next to my house on Etherton Road. There simply is not any room for new builds of that magnitude on Etherton. Connecting the road to town center seems to be the top priority at this time, and that's not a viable reason to build, and it will overload the area with cars again. Council, if this was your neighborhood, you would be against it. Please keep this in mind while voting. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker.
The next speaker is Scott Ottenberg.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, council members. Scott Ottenberg, Ward 3, here tonight to talk to you about my candidacy for state rep in District 110 in the August 6th Republican primary. I've served on this council for 3 years. Every single one of you has been very helpful to me with support and advice on how the city operates and how we can address various issues. Now, since I've been on this council over the past couple of years, we've had representatives from the President of the Senate come to this council and update us on some things happening in the legislature. We had a representative from State Senator Andrew Koenig's office come here and update us on what's happening in the State Senate as well. But in the 3 years I've been on this council, no one from the State House has ever come in here to update us that I can read, and especially not for the last 2 years. So at the urging of several members of the council, at the urging of our former mayor, at the urging of many of the people, some of whom are sitting out here, I became a candidate for state representative so that I can provide our city with a voice that we deserve to have down in Jefferson City. Now, as part of my campaign, I can't represent people if I don't know what's on their mind and what their concerns are. So I've gone out knocking on doors. Now, I haven't knocked on as many doors as a candidate that was here 2 months ago addressing the council, but I've knocked on approximately 3,000 doors so far. And if some of you are thinking, well, I haven't knocked on your door yet, I would ask you to be patient. I am hurrying as fast as I can possibly go. Now, some of you may be wondering what my priorities are. My priorities will be the city's priorities, as well as the city of Clarkson Valley.
And if I didn't mention it before, just as a little bit of background, as the result of redistricting that took place after the 2020 census, this State House District 110 consists solely of the city of Wildwood and the city of Clarkson Valley. And probably the number one issue that this city faces is addressing the erosion of the watershed. And guess what? That's probably the number one issue that Clarkson Valley is facing right now as well, because Calk Creek flows through our city and it flows through Clarkson Valley. In fact, it flows right alongside of the Kerrs Mill Trails Dam, which holds back a large lake. That dam is rather old. There's significant erosion taking place on the face of the dam that faces Calks Creek. And there is a very strong concern that that dam could give way. Now, if that happens, you will have millions of gallons of water pouring out of that lake into Calks Creek. It will flow downstream through Chesterfield, and it will flow upstream. And only a couple hundred yards away is the bridge on Kerrs Mill Road. And that water could conceivably take out that bridge. So the past couple of years, we've had erosion funding vetoed by the governor. I won't stand here and make you a promise I can't keep, which is that I can bend the governor's ear and get him not to veto that legislation in the future. But what I can tell you is that I'll talk to every single state representative I can, because there has to be other areas in this state that are dealing with erosion issues. I'm sure some of them have come up with solutions for addressing those issues. I will get that information and feed it back to the council here. Now, one promise I know I can make and keep, and that's that I'll be back here at least twice a year to update you on what's happening in Jefferson City, legislation that's pending and how it may impact the city, as well as coming back here twice a year. I think everybody up here has my cell phone number, and most of you know where I live, okay? And in the course of my campaign, I've talked to many of the people in this community. Several thousand people now have my cell phone number, and I can attest to the fact that many of them are using it. So going forward, I want to once again thank you all for the support you've given me for the past 3 years. And I look forward to working with you going forward. And I hope that once again, we can have the strong voice we need down in Jefferson City. But I can't do it by myself. I need the help of every single person up here and all of you out there. So thank you for your time. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Dr. Alan Bockert.
Mayor Pro Tem and council members, I am Alan Bockert. My request is very simple and my words will be very short, in that I request that you consider for me reading a second time this evening, bill number 2902, so that it would have its final reading. Thank you.
The next speaker card is Brad Goss.
Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, my name is Brad Goss. I'm with the law firm of Amundsen Davis, 7711 Carondelet, Suite 800, Clayton, Missouri, 63105. I represent the developer of the Latitude Inn 38 project, and I wanted to thank the council for the opportunity to be able to work with the city staff between now and the next meeting. We had a good meeting this afternoon. We received the comments earlier last week and have been reviewing them. And we look forward to working with the city staff to come up with a development that meets the requirements and needs of the city with respect to town center and addresses the concerns that we, of course, have been hearing over the course of the last several months. So again, I appreciate you taking the time and giving us the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker card is William Levinson.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, city staff. My name is William Levinson. I'm president of Benton Home Builders, 11605 Stutt Avenue, Suite 102, Shreveport, Missouri, 63141. I would like to comment on some of the other comments that were made tonight. Regarding negative reviews in our other developments, there's a lot of misinformation out there. It skipped numerous 5-star reviews to focus on a few negative reviews. Some of the screenshots I've seen posted on social media were not from our developments. We don't have stairwells. We don't issue parking passes. All of our stairs are inside of our unit, private spaces. We don't have any common stairwells. We don't issue parking passes. We have 4 spaces for every home, 2 in the garage and 2 in the driveway. That's clearly set out in our rental requirements, which we have discussed with the city previously. Clearly, some of these reviews are not from our project, so I would encourage you to please do your own research and try to sift through misinformation. Asbestos abatement. All demolitions are governed by DNR, St. Louis County, and Wildwood codes. Asbestos abatement is part of that process. We've built over 1,000 homes, have extensive experiments with demolition, land development, and building homes in multiple municipalities in the St. Louis area. When that time in the process arrives, we will follow all those rules and regulations. Someone mentioned villas are in demand. That's true, they are. Over half of our units are ranch homes, which we would consider villas. Currently, there are many people, we market those to an older demographic, and many of them want to rent in a professionally managed community. That doesn't exist in Wildwood. The rentals that were discussed earlier tonight are scattered sites managed by individuals. These are contained homes that are professionally managed in an area in a cohesive manner. All the yards are maintained, all the yards are mowed the same day, and the mulch is handled the same day, and the weeds are handled by the same company. That's not left to the individual tenant. That's handled by us. I also would like to just read a few testimonials from some of our tenants in our other projects. After selling my home and learning that I no longer had to relocate out of state for work, I was fortunate to be the first tenant to move into Alpine Heights. I must admit I was impressed, excited, and appreciative of the service and communication I received throughout the entire process. As you can imagine, COVID delayed, complicated, and disrupted so many things from the beginning to a move-in and a year later. Every question has been answered, every request has been completed, and every concern has been addressed. The management and facilities team has exceeded all of my expectations. I really enjoyed being a resident here, and the amenities and maintenance-free living is icing on the cake. Some of the reasons for selling our home was to get away from pool maintenance, yard work, and home repairs. Wild, we have everything right here, and we don't have to maintain it ourselves. It's all taken care of for us. If we had anything you would desire, it'd be a 4-bedroom version. So that's something that we've taken into consideration. Another one, I was ecstatic to run across the notice for leasing opportunities at Alpine Heights. My husband and I were just putting our house on the market for sale after 27 years. Our intentions were to sell, move into an apartment for a year till our new home was built. Now we are looking in a different direction, all because of our experience so far at Alpine. First of all, the staff is awesome. They made the application process so easy, helping us through a process that obviously we had not experienced before. And they continue to be so nice, supportive, available to answer questions and provide needed services, including any minor maintenance requests. Now to the townhome itself. Once we toured it, we knew it was just what we were looking for. It is new with all the updates we are looking for in a new build. Lovely landscaping, amenities to include an exercise room, lounging area around the pool, 2-car garages, stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, spacious bedrooms, everything we are looking for in a new home. Therefore, we are thinking our new build. Another move, additional expenses, rethinking, ... So those are just a couple of testimonials that we have from existing residents. If you have questions yourself, I would encourage you to come visit our project. Talk to some of our residents. And I think you'll be pleased with what you see. One other comment I would like to make is that different municipalities have different architectural standards. We are well aware of Wildwood's architectural standards, cementitious siding, front porches, things like that, and they will absolutely be included in Latitude N38. We've already been working with the city, and we look forward to continuing that process. Thank you.
All right. Any other speaker cards? All right. With that, we will close public comment and move on to public hearings. I guess we need a motion to open it. Joe?
PZ 2-24, City of Wildwood Planning and Zoning Commission care of Department of Planning, 16860 Main Street, Wildwood, Missouri, 63040. A request for a change in zoning regarding attractive land that is 6 acres in size, which is located on the south side of Crestview Drive at the current terminus of Main Street. Street address is 16904 and 16916 Crestview Drive, St. Louis County, locator numbers 23V220013 and 23V220123. That is currently designated the NU Non-Urban Residence District, Town Center Cultural Institutional District to the PS Park and Scenic District. The property is the future location of the city's Village Green, a master planned park and event space owned by the city of Wildwood. Construction of phase 1 of this park is planned to begin in spring 2024.
Mr. Vunich.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council, the Planning and Zoning Commission is presenting to you tonight its letter of recommendation regarding its review of a rezoning request of Village Green. Village Green is the 6-acre site that is owned by the city of Wildwood and immediately abuts City Hall to the west. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed the request for the rezoning and by unanimous action is recommending a change in zoning from the NU Non-Urban Resident District to the Park and Scenic District, PS. The change in zoning will correspond the proposed zoning district designation to its planned use. Therefore, tonight, after public comment and questions from City Council, the Department of Planning and Parks will be respectfully requesting authorization. Well, actually, it is already prepared and will be requesting a first reading of the bill. Thank you. And again, after any public comment, the department will be available to respond to questions or comments. Thank you.
All right. Any public comment?
I have one speaker card, Lynn Link.
Ms. Link, as you're approaching, you may already know, you have 5 minutes. I think, is it 5?
I'm not even going to take half that.
5 minutes.
I just want to say I'm really excited about Village Green. I'm excited about the SN cabin and everything you're doing it. But the problem is it's important to know what's going to be next to it. And I'm just wondering if the city has done any studies to see how potentially the development at Latitude 38 could affect the city or the new park. Because there's extreme density issues, there'll be issues with parking. You know, rent is going to go between $2,000 and $3,000 a month, which may require several people to pay rent with their cars and their visitors. There'll be 2 to 3 bedrooms per each unit at 52 to 57 units. It can be safely estimated that there can be 2 to 4 people per unit, which could be 200 or more residents. So what will the city do to enforce that these residents and visitors aren't parking or it doesn't affect the Village Green? And then, as you know, 1-star rating, lowest. Benton Rentals, people who have been living at the other Benton Rentals complain of dog feces everywhere. And that's a real concern because this is such a dense development that there's no place to walk a dog. It's all cement. And so are we going to be able to patrol people and stop them from walking their dogs and letting their dogs go to the bathroom on the new in the new park? Also, I know that the city has issues with regard to trash cans and ordinance regarding trash cans being stored out of sight and everything. And I'm just wondering if especially because this is Village Green, do we have the amount of people we need to be able to patrol this if it's going to be right next to Village Green? And if everybody is going to be able to see it, and it's going to be in plain view, you're going to have not only neighbors complaining, you're going to have visitors complaining too. So again, when you're considering Village Green and we're spending all this money on it, and I think it's money well spent, we need to also consider what's going to be around it too. And if maybe this is too dense of a property or development to put right next to our Village Green. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Boone, you got anything you want to add?
Thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council, obviously, the Department of Planning and Parks, along with the Planning and Zoning Commission, does express concerns about budding or adjoining development to any of its parks properties. And certainly we will take into account ultimately what the City Council might approve or not approve on the parcel of ground collectively north latitude 38. I can assure you, we are concerned about how people manage their pets, how security is addressed, and parking issues relative to Village Green. The advantage of Village Green is we have a 300 space parking garage within a short walking distance of Village Green. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have anything you want to add, or would anybody care to make a motion to close the public hearing? Mr. Krantz will make the motion to close it. Ms. Dodwell will second it. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, with that, our public hearing is closed and we can move into legislation, unfinished business, starting off with Bill 2879. You want to read it, Megan? Oh, yeah. Do we have a motion to read the bill? Ms. Dodwell, motions. Anybody care a second? Mr. Mabry. All right. Oh. Can we do a voice vote, or does it have to be roll call? All those in favor of reading Bill 2879, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All righty, Ms. Eldridge.
Bill number 2879, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, ratifying the town center regulating plan and approving the rezoning of 4 lots with the application of a planned residential development overlay district, PRD, onto the properties totaling 8.3 acres located on the west side of Taylor Road Extension, south of State Route 100 and west of State Route 109, and authorizing up to 34 detached single-family dwellings on individual lots with common ground, stormwater facilities, and required public space areas, all consistent with the Planning and Zoning Commission's April 1, 2024 letter of recommendation, second reading.
All righty. Mr. Vunich.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council, first an apology. Obviously, the Director of Planning is directionally challenged in regards to this particular description. And for the most part, it should say the west side of Taylor Road Extension, north of State Route 100 and east of State Route 109. So my apologies to all. As was mentioned during public participation, this particular bill is for a development called the Villages at Bright Point. The intent is to develop the 8+ acre site with up to 34 detached single-family dwellings on individual lots. These dwellings will mirror almost identically Village E that was part of the Villages at Brightleaf. In comparing the densities between Village E and the proposed Villages at Bright Point, density of Village E is actually greater than the density associated here. The department would conclude its presentation by acknowledging that it did investigate concerns relating to the retention facility, the lake, and any potential impacts it might have on the system of pipes associated with stormwater runoff. I can assure you that as part of any project of this nature, Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District, the Department of Public Works, and the Department of Planning will guarantee that if there is improvements needed to the downstream system of pipes, it will be made as part of this particular project. The intent is always to ensure that the existing system can manage additional projects added to it. And with that, if there are any questions regarding this particular project, the department would be glad to try to address them at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Marshall.
Mr. Vunich, I know we've been over this a couple times. It appears that the 2-story are back in. They were 2-story building, were out through P and Z, came back, then it was out. They're back in. So I know our discussion was that across the way, there was only one that was two-story, but that's one of the few things that the residents there felt that two-story was not something that they wanted. And I notice it's back in now that they can have a two-story in this new development. Is that true?
That is correct. There is a condition associated with the bill that would allow any of the dwellings to be up to 2 stories in height.
One last, when we talked before, we were also talking about the density at being 34. And I think we had several people discuss, was there any any consideration of reducing that down? I mean, I think there's some great improvements to it, but that still seemed to be those 2 on each end were just a little too much.
Certainly, there's been questions raised about the 2 units that form the cap, so to speak, on the southernmost end and northernmost end of the project. Even the lots themselves reflect kind of a unique shape on portions of them. The department would just again emphasize that from a density perspective, this project is less dense than Village E when calculated. Village E was, from the perspective of the Department of Planning, very successful and brought in a good number of residents that had lived elsewhere in the city of Wildwood, were looking for something that was maintenance-free and at least in terms of yard area, smaller. So density-wise, it's not out of the realm of what was approved by the city for Village E at the villages of Brightleaf. What I would say is certainly as we go through the site development plan process and we start factoring in public space, stormwater management, infrastructure, and a number of other items that are part of the conditions, the bill reads up to 34. There is no guarantee. Certainly, if the city council feels the density is too great, it's a conversation that can be held.
Ms. Dodwell.
Joe, in looking at the development to the northeast, so to speak, that's been there for several years, those are 2-story developments, aren't they?
The Sandalwood condominium project is 2 stories. There's a ground level and a second level. And in some instances, I believe even with some walkouts associated with them due to the grade of the site at the time of development. So there is a mix in the vicinity. Obviously, Windsor Crest, the first new urbanism project in town center many, many years ago, is a mix of ranch and 2-story. Lafayette Trails, a mix of ranch and 2 stories. So in the vicinity, there is just a mix of different.
That's what I wanted to clarify. I thought that was the case.
Ms. McCutcheon.
For those of us who have been around a while, we all recall the discussion about the density in the villages of Brightleaf. I am still getting questions and concerns about the density in Brightleaf. So I would like to propose that legislation be changed to say up to 30 homes instead of 34. I know a lot of discussion I have has been, can we at least decrease this by 4 lots? When it says up to 34, that means they can build 34 lots. If it says up to 30, that means they can build 30 lots. When you say up to 34, we don't really know what that means. It could be 34, it could be 33, it could be 32. We don't know. But based on residents' comments and concerns, I would like to move that we amend this bill to say up to 30 lots instead of 40. It says 34, sorry.
Mr. Mabry seconds. Need to discuss. All right. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Mr. Odenberg.
So if we limit it to only 30, which 4 in the current design would we propose eliminating?
Mr. Vunich.
I don't. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, certainly, Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council, the concerns have always been expressed about the set of units on the northernmost and southernmost end. And if this motion with the amendment were to pass, those are the areas that I believe the department would focus on.
So just a thought, and looking at this picture, there are 6 lots there, so you. Well, what's that? Yeah, is that what you want to do? Deb?
There are 4 lots in particular that residents are complaining about, and those are the 4 that Joe brought up. So I don't know what we would do with that space. I don't know if it'd be green space or, what. I think, we'd have to relook at that. But I do think 34 homes are too dense, and 30 would be more in line with what residents have been asking for.
Miss Edens, you had something?
Yeah, I have a separate question and then I have a clarification. So how I'm reading it, and at least the concerns that I raised at the last meeting, unless I can't see the lot numbers correctly, which is possible, they're very tiny. I think what we're talking about is 19, 20, 31, and 32. So all of the lots that basically touch. Yeah, I'm understanding the motion to influence lots 19, 20, 31, and 32. Is that how you're interpreting it, Director Vunich?
Believe that's correct. I can't see the lot numbers as well. Defer to your better eyesight tonight. But I think saying is, again, the rack of lots on the northern and southernmost ends
Yep,
of the
it is 19, 20, 31, and 32. That's what it would take for me to get more comfortable for the project. My question is a procedural question, which is because this is a zoning request to change from the commercial district attached to this development district. Remind me, was this rezoning only attached to this project, or is it residential now, even if this fails in the site development process later? Like once it's residential forever, or it revolves or reverts back to commercial if this fails later?
As when you say fails later.
I said if it fails later.
Right, I'm not, when you say if it fails later, I'm not sure what I mean by, I'm not sure I'm clear on what you mean by it fails.
Because this is just the zoning request right now, correct? Not the full approval of a site development plan?
This is not the site development plan, but it is the PRD, which includes the.
Right,
site
it changed
specific
into commercial. What I'm saying is there ever a potential for it to go back to commercial?
It would have to be rezoned back.
It'd have to be rezoned back. So it's not just attached to this project, it's just attached to the land zoning.
Right.
That was, okay, all right, we're good now. Okay, so something to consider.
Mr. Krantz, you had something?
Three, right. Maxed out. I would like to see maybe a couple of homes. Because it is a change. And I think we should take that seriously. And I do know this developer has built on larger lots. How they come up here on 34 homes on 8 acres. I'm not sure how many acres once you subtract out the streets and all that. How many acres are they going to build?
I don't know that answer off the top of my head, and I certainly can. From the standpoint of our zoning ordinance, the deductions that are required from the gross acreage of the site relate to right of way. And we calculate generally anywhere from about 10 to 12%. So if there's 34 units, we're probably talking in the vicinity of about 7.5 acres, somewhere in that vicinity. That doesn't take into account the common ground subtraction that you mentioned.
I would just like to see a subdivision for it.
Mr. Mabry.
Microphone.
Thank you.
Move. Thank
When I
you.
have to use it too. Just for simplicity's sake, the concern I've heard from residents at the last meeting and that I agreed with pretty well, is that it's the 4 units that are closest to the walking, trotting trail. Is that what everybody else's understanding is? Yeah. Okay, and it's for that reason. It's for setback. It's not cramming. It's not affixing these units right up to the edge of what's allowed. Screening too, if that was, it fits under architectural review. The trail's there now. The forest is there now. More consideration given to aesthetics, to the extent that it's allowed by whatever the city's controls are in place for that. If that falls under architectural review, I'm not sure. My biggest concern is what I've heard and tried to connect the dots to with regard to water drainage, water retention, water mitigation, water management. I read that there's something with the word bio in front of it. And that type of drainage methodology with the word bio in front of it is used by MSD. And it's been shown in the same development that it doesn't work. And that there's going to be some assurance of something occurring during review process. But can we put some teeth into it more than what I read in attachment B? That with regard to what it will be assured of being, that we can say that it will be assured of not being what's not working. And instead of waiting for site development plan, a template or a standard or a proven example of somewhere in the county, it can be shown to be, we're going to build it like that, and just like that, and not just develop it as we go.
From the perspective of the department, and I believe Fisher Frickhill will agree, the retention, the lake, is a vast improvement over what we've seen in the villages at Brightleaf. Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District allows retention to be stacked or layered. And that means all of the functions are in a single structure. And what we're seeing is it works, but it doesn't look very good. And appearance is very important when you're trying to develop a project. And from all perspectives, works well for the residents and those that visit the community. This lake is a vast improvement. And yeah, I applaud Fisher Frickhill for wanting to do a lake versus the stacked or bioretention basins that are layered. This is an aesthetic feature that'll function well. The new standards that Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District has relative to managing channel protection, flood mitigation, and water quality, they seem to be working. It's the 4 bays that are part of those stacked detentions that look terrible, that we're struggling with. And we're still holding escrow in villages at Brightleaf, much to the chagrin, I would say, of Fisher Frickhill, because we just can't get them to look the way they should. They may be functioning, but they're not what people expected, and certainly not what the city is anticipating. So I think, at least from the conditions in place and the discussions that we've held with Fisher Frickhill, the lake, the design will function very well.
If the schematic and the guidelines set forth in attachment B satisfy city planning and parks, they'll satisfy me.
Well, thank you. And I believe they do.
Ms. Dodwell.
Just real quickly, Joe, on the 4 lots that were discussed, how obviously that full length of each lot is not the full length of the home that's going in there, or is it?
It's not.
So how much space from the back of the home to the end of their particular lot are you estimating there might be?
Well, from the standpoint of the proposed conditions, the minimum rear yard setback is 15 feet. And on the perimeter of the PRD, it's 30 feet. Now, what Fisher Frickhill's done is they've, to address that 30-foot setback, added common ground to separate the rear of the lots from the perimeter boundary.
Mm-hmm.
So standard setback is 15 feet. The depth of these lots based upon the conditions, as I recall, and bear with me as I check.
That's
to make-
okay.
Make
Take your
sure I
time.
get it right here. Is 125 feet. So the depth of the house, 60. So we've got a 20-foot front yard, a 60-foot depth of house, and a 15-foot rear yard setback. Collectively, we've got 95 feet, and we have 100. The depth of the lot is 125, excuse me. So we've got another 40 plus feet.
Okay.
So again, the house won't sit at the very back
No.
of the lot.
And as Fisher and Frickel, as part of this development, it appears that they are planting trees on their property to augment what's in that space already.
Yes, ma'am, the city's requirements are fairly robust in terms of the landscaping plans. And certainly as we go through this, our new arborist will be instrumental in improving what we see.
So that gives a walker, a runner, a buffer between the back of the building, between the owner's property line and the trail that they are using. And part of the reason for my question is if you continue on this trail on north up to Clayton Road, you're running / walking along houses that until the city of Wildwood put a fence right up there and some burning bushes, their backyard was right up next to that trail. So I don't see this particular proposal being any different. And as a matter of fact, I think it's better than what was put into those subdivisions when they were still under St. Louis County control. So I'm comfortable with what the city has worked with the developer on in order to make this, because can't speak anymore because I'm sitting up here shivering, a successful project. And while I understand some of us moved out here because we wanted space, we've seen developments within this whole town center area that people don't want all that space anymore, or they're not comfortable with it for their particular situation. So I think we ought to be able to support this, and this is much better than having apartments standing up there that are what you see along Big Bend Road or Olive Street Road or whatever. So I'm fine with the way it is right now.
Mr. Galani.
Yeah, I concur with Councilmember Dodwell's sentiments and what the city's done to work with the developer. I know there's always a question of density that comes up, but at the same time, we have 2% of the entire city of Wildwood that's zoned for high density development, less than 3 acres, and there's only so much land available to do that on. And I think we need to keep that in mind. I think this once again looks like a pretty good design concept to me, and it looks like they put in the effort in trying to accommodate all of the requests that are there. So the other thing I have is a clerical clarification. It's tribute to former Councilmember Clark. This says south of State Route 100 and west of Route 109, and it's actually north of State Route 100 and east of 109. Oh, I missed it. Sorry. I just got to say it.
Good catch.
Because I usually am not that detail oriented.
All right. Anybody have anything? Ms. McCutcheon.
I want to say again, I heard Ms. Dodwell, but a lot of people that are in Wildwood and weren't even aware of town center words and density, even after they started moving into Villages of Brightleaf, we've heard over and over and over that was too dense. I'm already starting hearing that. I think they've done a wonderful job. There have been issues with Villages of Brightleaf. For the most part, they're being addressed. I don't have any problem with the rest of the development, but my residents have a definite problem with the 34 homes versus the 30.
Okay. Now that was a fun conversation. So let's push this forward and we'll take the amendment part first. And should that fail, then we will go back to the original bill. And if it succeeds, then we go forward from there. Everybody understand where we're at? All right. Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll.
Councilmember Edens,
Yes to the amendment.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yeah.
Councilmember Dodwell,
No.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
No.
Councilmember Hopper,
No.
Councilmember Galani,
No.
Councilmember Preston,
No.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
No.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers.
Yes.
That passes.
9-0.
All right, amendment carries. So I got that going for us. Okay, moving forward. I would like, since we have a whole bunch of
Can I clarify something? Was that
Sure.
on the motion?
this, the amendment. So then we do the motion still, or does that make the motion? Okay. Okay, so everybody is clear on how this bill has been amended now? Okay. So let's call the roll on the amended bill, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Councilmember Rottenberg, Councilmember Dodwell,
No.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Preston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon, Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons,
Yeah.
Councilmember Albers,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Okay, and with that, amended bill 2879 passes. So now we've got a whole bunch of bills in a row that are basically just kind of readjusting plat lines and things. So unless anybody has a specific one that they would like to talk about, I would really enjoy doing these in mass. And I'm talking about bills 2880, 2882, 2883, 2884, 2885, 2886, and 2887. Does anybody have any thoughts or concerns on that? All right, Megan, I hope you get a drink of water here before you start reading.
Basically everything, or no?
Everything moving up until 2888.
Okay,
So all the way through to 2887. I have faith she can get through this. All right. Would anybody care to make a motion to read that in mass? All right. Mr. Jackson makes the motion. Mr. Galani seconds it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Megan, here you go.
Bill number 2880, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the division of 2 legal lots of record into 4 parcels of ground, forming a 52.6 acre tract of land located on the west side of Wild Horse Creek Road, north of Austin Fort Road, located within U.S. Survey 668, 152, and 156, Township 45 North, Range 3 East of the 5th Principal Meridian, St. Louis County, Book 8245, page 97, and to be hereafter known as Wild Horse Creek Adjustment, second reading. Bill number 2882, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the consolidation of 2 tracts of land, being Olive Tract B and Tract C of Bope Estates re-subdivision, Plat Book 362, pages 542 through 544, located within the east half of the southwest quarter of fractional section 26, Township 44 North, Range 3 East of the 5th Principal Meridian, St. Louis County, Missouri, and to be hereafter known as consolidation of tracts of B and C of Bope Estates re-subdivision, second reading. Bill number 2883, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the consolidation of 2 legal lots of record, being lots 1 and 2 of the Boyle Holcomb lot split of adjusted Lot A, located within Section 25, Township 45 North, Range 3 East, situated at the intersection of Shepherd Road and Shepherd Ridge Road, and to be hereafter known as Boyle Holcomb Estate Lot Consolidation Plat, second reading. Bill number 2884, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing a boundary adjustment plat for 2331 Wild Horse Creek Road and 2333 Wild Horse Creek Road, 2 lots being a tract of land in the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 4, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, St. Louis County, Missouri, and to be hereafter known as 2331 and 2333 Wild Horse Creek Road Boundary Adjustment Plat, second reading. Bill number 2885, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing a boundary adjustment plat for 18545 St. Albans Road and 2331 Wild Horse Creek Road, 2 tracts of land in the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter and the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 4, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, St. Louis County, Missouri, and to be hereafter known as Boundary Adjustment Plat 18545 St. Albans Road and 2331 Wild Horse Creek Road, second reading. Bill number 2886, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing a boundary adjustment plat for 18545 St. Albans Road and 18601 St. Albans Road, 2 tracts of land in the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter and the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 4, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, St. Louis County, Missouri, and to be hereafter known as Boundary Adjustment Plat 18545 and 18601 St. Albans Road, second reading. Bill number 2887, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the division of an approximately 22-acre parcel of ground located at 18601 St. Albans Road into 2 lots, being a tract of land in the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter and the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 4, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, St. Louis County, Missouri, and to be hereafter known as 18601 St. Albans Road, lot split plat, second reading.
Nice work. All right. Mr. Boone, you got anything extra for us?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council, if you have any questions on any of the bills that were just read for the second time, the department would be glad to try to answer them.
All right. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
Thank you.
All right. Do we do a roll call vote? Let's do a vote.
Councilmember Dodwell. Councilmember Marshall.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
Councilmember Galani.
Yes.
Councilmember Preston.
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry.
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Farmer.
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember Kranz. Councilmember Albers. Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg.
All right. All of that passes. Fantastic. That brings us to Bill 2888. Do we have a motion to proceed? Ms. McCutcheon makes the motion. Ms. Nyan seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Megan, back at you.
Bill number 2888, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a city consultant agreement with CB Engineering Incorporated, DBA Cochran, for construction engineering for the Manchester Road and Taylor Road resurfacing and signal improvement project, second reading.
All right, Mr. Brown, you got anything additional for us?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I have nothing additional for the council, but I'm available for any questions at this time.
All right, any questions or concerns? Mr. Mabry.
Is this a new vision for that entire four corner intersection?
For Bill 2888?
2888, it's for engineering 157K for engineering Manchester and Taylor Road resurfacing signal improvement project.
So this is for the construction, essentially the construction, inspection, and materials testing services that will be completed during the construction of the project by the private contractor. So the overall project includes resurfacing and signal replacement for the 3 intersections that are included in the project. It's primarily a pavement rehabilitation project, but we also are going to replace the signals and do some curb work and some sidewalk replacement as well.
Section, not one. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, anybody, do we need a motion? All right, no. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Marshall. Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
Councilmember Galani. Councilmember Preston.
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry.
Yes.
Councilmember Nian.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Farmer.
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons. Councilmember Albers. Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg. Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
Right, all right, that passes. Next up, do we have a motion for Bill 2890? Oh, I'm sorry, 2889. My bad. Mr. Marshall makes the motion. Mr. Albers seconds it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? All right. Bill 2889.
Bill number 2889, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending section 2 of ordinance number 2726 of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, increasing the total authorization amount of the city consultant agreement with HR Green Incorporated to complete the design of a new roundabout improvement project on State Route 109 at State Route BA South, second reading.
Right, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council members, again, I don't have anything additional to add. I'm available for any questions regarding this matter from the council.
All right, any questions or concerns? Ms. Dodwell.
Could you please remind us what the ETA is for the build on this to begin? I know it's not this.
Well, there's 2 main things that need to be done, and that's partly why we're requesting the additional authorization. We're still negotiating with Ameren to finalize the acquisition of right-of-way and easements from them. They've been dragging their feet and very slow to move forward. And at this point, I'm going to be pressing them every week on that very issue to get that resolved as soon as possible. We also have utility adjustments that have to be made. There's gas, water, and Ameren adjustments that have to be made as well. And some of those are pending the Ameren dedication of their right-of-way. The other factor we are facing is the concerns with environmental restrictions relating to the clearance of trees. And those restrictions continue to get more restrictive, essentially precluding the removal of trees essentially during the summer months until November 1st. So frankly, we're optimistically hoping we can bid the project this fall. I think at this point, most of the construction, best case, would occur next year.
All right, anybody else? Okay, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
Councilmember Galani. Councilmember Preston.
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry.
Yes.
Councilmember Nian.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Farmer.
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons. Councilmember Albers. Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg. Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall.
Yes.
Right, that passes. Is there a motion to read Bill 2890? Mr. Ottenberg makes the motion. Ms. Nyan seconds it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll. Or I'm sorry. Let's read it first.
Bill number 2890, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a municipal and cost apportionment agreement between the city of Wildwood, Missouri and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission to implement aesthetic enhancements on State Route 109, second reading.
Rick, you got anything first?
Mayor Pro Tem and council members, no, I have nothing additional at this point again, but I'm available for any questions.
Mr. Ottenberg.
Rick, could you just review briefly what those aesthetic improvements would be?
Absolutely. So the aesthetic improvements are primarily twofold. It would relate to, and primarily would relate to Route 109. The section from Route 100 up to BA South where our roundabout project is going to be constructed. The two areas that would be improved are the guardrail, which effectively has already been completed or addressed. But what we've understood is much of the rail that was installed previously as black rail under our widening project in 2014, that rail is being removed and replaced. So to address it and to keep it as black coated, we'll have to move forward with this agreement with MoDOT. There are some additional runs of new rail as well that would be one placed would be black finish to match the rail to the south. And then the two signals, Shepherd Road and Clayton Road, are being replaced. The span wire installations are going to be replaced with permanent steel posts and arms, as is typical. So both those signals, they will have black finish instead of galvanized or steel finish or aluminum. And then we'll have the illuminated LED street name signs. So we've got those at Taylor and Route 100 on the Great Streets project some years ago. They were installed all the way down Route 100. So we would add those at Shepherd Road and at Clayton Road. So it's signal enhancements, and the guardrail would be black finish.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Okay. Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Preston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers, Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg, Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
All right. Bill passes. Moving forward, would anyone care to make a motion for final passage of Bill 2893? Ms. Dodwell makes the motion. Mr. Preston seconds it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage.
Bill number 2893, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, revising the FY 2024 municipal budget to adjust for salaries and compensation, second reading.
Okay, any questions, thoughts, concerns? All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Preston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers, Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg, Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
All right, that passes. That brings us to 2894, right? Okay. Mr. Galani makes a motion for 2894. Anybody have a second? Mr. Preston seconds it. We've got some goats or something in the speakers. That's cool. Mr. Vunich, anything? Oh, well, let's read it at first. Second. Roll call. Oh, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Let's put this down.
Bill number 2894, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing placement of the Essen Log Cabin on the city's historic registry, with such being consistent with the report and action set forth in the Historic Preservation Commission's letter of recommendation dated May 23rd, 2024, second reading.
All right, Mr. Vunich, anything you care to add?
No, sir, but I am available for any questions.
All right, any questions or concerns on Essen Cabin? Mr. Krantz?
It's still in pieces, but it's we're planning tomorrow today.
All right, anybody have anything else? Okay. Miss Eldridge, please call for final passage.
Yes.
Mabry?
Yes.
Sorry, it's my fault. Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers, Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg, Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper.
Yes.
Councilmember Galani.
Motion passes. Is there a motion for the second reading of Bill 2895? Ms. Dodwell. Seconded by Mr. Rambo. Let's get you into the action here tonight. I like it. Yeah. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Bill number 2895, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing changes to amended St. Louis County Ordinance number 16342 to accommodate modifications and allow the permitted uses authorized therein, which includes a microbrewery, associated restaurant, and accessory structures and activities part of such land uses. Second reading.
Mr. Vunich, you got anything for us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council, as you know, at the June meeting of the City Council, a bill was introduced to accommodate the change of West County Feed and Supply to Good News Brewing Company. The bill contained a number of items relating to accommodations for the new use, and subsequent to that meeting, a discussion was held with the owner of Good News Brewing Company. There were several items that the owner requested be reconsidered, and those are identified in Bill 2895A. And those items relate primarily to the stage and the music. The original bill limited music to Friday and Saturday nights from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and none on Sunday or any of the weekdays. The owner of the Good News Brewing Company requested that there be some latitude with regards to music. And now it reads, except Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, where the activities can begin at 2 p.m. versus 6 p.m. and include Sunday. And then also performances on Wednesday through Sunday from 2 to 4 only on Sunday. I'm not saying this very well, but it's explained on page 7 of the proposed Bill A. The department, again, is presenting them from the perspective of, certainly the concern was the impact on surrounding residential. Now, stating that, as you know, the original bill requires the stage face to the west and that the stage have protective sound dampening on at least 3 of the 4 sides. And in terms of the type of music, acoustic, and again, that was another request. If the acoustic, they wanted something that was amplified, it would be limited to no more than 2 musicians. So there are some changes that obviously impact the area, but I get from the perspective of the department, I guess the best way to address it is the playing of music and outdoor games would be limited Wednesday through Sunday to a very specified set of hours and no later than 9 o'clock.
All right. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Mr. Mabry?
This is, to me, quite an orders of magnitude expansion to what the plan was, which was what I thought very sensitive to surrounding neighbors and allowed for any outdoor entertainment, which was a consideration I thought the city was making. The Sunday stuff makes me queasy, especially getting into evening time. The fell swoop of Wednesday through Sunday of anything is that seems like it really, that's disconcerting to me. Without getting into the weeds about what times, what days, and then special events. I thought there was even a component about something to do with acoustic only and not electric something. And then how the decibel levels is any of that changed from what it was? I don't know what it was before, but I liked what it was before.
Yes, and probably a table with the days and times would have been beneficial, so my apology, but yes, the owner requested that instead of being limited only to acoustic, that there be amplified music allowed as well. And again, I would emphasize that music on Sundays is limited to the hours of 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So it would not extend into.
Only
the
2 to 4. Oh, okay. That's back to semblance of respect for Sunday. Well, okay. I'm just one person, but I'd say lose the electric anything and then ratchet down. Is there still the same decibel level?
Yes, nothing's changed with the sound levels nor the orientation of the stage or the additions to the stage to basically provide for sound dampening or mitigation.
There again, whatever comes of it, I'm just one opinion.
So the way it reads now, the performance of music and offering of outdoor games shall end no later than 9 p.m. and it cannot start before 6 p.m. Now, it exempts Friday, Saturday, and Sunday where the activities can begin at 2 p.m. versus 6 p.m. So it gives them 4 hours during the afternoon time frame. And then from there, it speaks, music shall be limited to Wednesday through Sunday. And that again would be from 6 to 9, except Sunday would be 2 to 4.
Yeah, I've mentioned the hours that were previously discussed to a lot of residents. It's kind of in my subdivision area. So I'm okay with some of this, but I would probably be uncomfortable supporting the Wednesday and Thursday, kind of the whole school night thing and stuff like that as you get through most of the year. So it would be my objection to Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, from the perspective of the department, again, I will defer to Mr. Lee. He was an attendee at the meeting as well. Certainly, the department wanted to err on the side of caution with regards to music, so in proximity to established neighborhoods. And the Planning and Zoning Commission echoed that. Certainly, we're in a bit of a tight position because obviously the land use like this would be very beneficial to town center. It would enliven that area and certainly bring up a number of positives. So from the perspective of the department, we're still trying to make that balance, so to speak. But if there are concerns, I think the best approach may be to postpone and allow a little bit more time to understand the sequencing and get you better information in terms of the days, the times, and how they all function together.
1 second. So little bird whispered in my ear that perhaps that this is about minimum standards and that there's still a level as we move forward to iron these things out. So it's just kind of setting groundwork for the conversation, not the official hard and fast rule that changes it for anybody. Mr. Rambo, you had something?
Yeah, just a couple quick comments. I don't claim to be a musician, but I am a fan, and I would say that the electric or amplification piece is simply the reality that an electric guitar sounds a whole lot different from an acoustic guitar. And as long as we're not increasing the decibel level, I wouldn't get too wrapped around the axle about whether it's electric versus acoustic. I will say that at Wildwood Pub and Grill, they have outdoor music and you can barely hear it. I mean, I'd pick up carry out Chinese and I'm going by there all the time and so forth. And it's just not intrusive at whatever level we've set for them. So as long as it's similar, it should be fine. But the main thing I wanted to point out is I was surprised. I always read every public comment. I make it a point. And there were quite a few very, very local, close proximity residents that were supportive of this particular proposal, which surprised me because you get people that it's just a knee-jerk negative, but that was not the case in this particular proposal. So I think we're on pretty firm ground. That's all.
Ms. Eads, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say that we also have mechanisms in place. If there is a noise ordinance violation, we can always review if there are issues. So there are enforcement mechanisms that we have in place if there is a problem.
All right.
But I think that that there is a balance that this is achieved, and giving our businesses the tools to attract and retain customers is very important. And I think we can do it in a non-intrusive way, and I believe this does that.
All right, Mr. Mabry, then Mr. Elvers.
Yes, thanks. They do say, I've heard it, that evil minds think alike, and I agree completely that I even thought it myself. I go, that means they can't use any electric guitars at all, because you got to amplify them to hear them. And acoustic's nice, but some music is good with electric. So it made me think the next step on. And may we consider minimum approval to begin with, and then have the owner realize that it's their legal right to come back and request amendment after a probationary period, as they work through their soft opening and then showing all the neighbors their compliance and willingness to cooperate. And then they request the ability to increase their hours and their instrument number quantities and going to Wednesday because of this and that.
That sounds like a John Young question.
I stumped the attorney.
Well, I'm trying to consider the wording and the mechanism for it, because I've never addressed that type of thing. So that might be something I'd have to work with the department on, but I will note that, and the department, Mr. Vunish, correct me if I'm wrong, but we do require that this particular use is a conditional use permit. So these are things that you can focus on as part of that application and review process when it comes forward. So this is just a basic minimum standard, and for a specific application, you can apply additional conditions and requirements.
At a later time after he's
Correct.
proven to be a good citizen.
Well, once he submits an actual plan that you will be considering, so like where the location of the stage is, and we'll take all that stuff into consideration and factor it in.
But we've got to commit to wanting to allow 2 electricians using amplifiers and that sort of stuff.
Not necessarily, that's a minimum standard, and you can increase the standards if you like at the time with the conditional use permit.
After we've had him prove himself out as a good citizen and stay under the decibels and
Well,
not go over by an hour and a half because no one's watching.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, as part of that conditional use permit review process, we can consider that process, because at this time, I can't give you a discrete answer.
We can build in amendability upon further petition by the owner.
Potentially.
Okay.
Mr. Albert.
I'm very much a proponent of music. Just as a point of reference, my subdivision is right across the street from the feed store, and we all can hear the music from the Wildwood Pub. Now, I think they are limited to the weekends up there, Friday and Saturday. So I think we just really got to look at something similar for this facility. I mean, I was okay Friday, Saturday, parts of Sunday. I think that maybe the Wednesday and Thursday thing would really be challenged.
Mr. Krantz. Anybody else? Mr. Ramo.
Well, it's in our noise code, and from the hours of 7 PM to 7 AM at 45 decibels at the property line. However, as you know, out here, sound travels. And we have received complaints from residents in Old Grover Estates, towns at Windrush, about the noise from the music at Wildwood Pub. Police have responded. For the most part, we asked them just to be cognizant of it. But we did the one test, as I recall, it wasn't above 45, at least where we were at the boundary. So it's a tough situation, the town. That's why we started with Good News Brewing Company, limiting it to just a couple of days, abbreviated hours. It seems from the discussion Mr. Lee and I had with the owner of the business that the music is an felt like it was necessary to at least consider it.
Yes.
Yes. So the intent is to have the back of the stage facing West Avenue. The stage will face toward all intents and purposes, the commercial area, which includes Rockwood Banks, Wildwood Pub, the YMCA. So we're hoping that we can direct it toward there and not have it, let's say, meander elsewhere. Part of that too is to try to do some sound dampening on the back side as well as the north and south sides of the state.
I think a good point. So, traveling, is that sound in
Westbridge Oaks. Yes, well,
they may be doing about this.
well, and Mr. Brown resides in Westbridge Oaks, so if I would do something to cause, sure, I would probably hear about it, but again, that's part of the reason we're trying to put that dampening on the side so that, yes, we'll try to channel it or direct it as best we can to the commercial area.
To be the back of the building.
I'm saying, Wildwood Pub is hard surface.
Correct.
Actually,
Don't state it, the sound of the crowd.
Well, and one of the things Mr. Tripp, who is the owner of Good News Brewing Company, said is topographically, the stage sits low. It is kind of in a little depression there where the existing building is, and the building itself will act to mitigate sound because West County Feed and Supply is just going to be converted to the restaurant and microbreweries. Yes, in fact, there'll be some expansions onto it, a patio, things along those lines. But yes, the reuse of the building is critical to their proposal.
All right. Mr. Ottenberg.
So with this particular project, as Director Boone just said, there will be sound dampening materials on 3 sides, correct?
That's the intent, yes.
And so as this project will go forward, though, there will still be designs that we will have to approve as we go down the road.
Yeah, the Planning and Zoning Commission will review the amended site development plan. And as with any action on a plan, it comes to the city council for receipt and filing.
So it sounds like some of the discussions we're having here tonight regarding what may or may not happen with the sound are more theoretical in nature. We will get a better idea of what may happen with the sound from the music that's generated here once we see the final design of the facility.
And as the city attorney mentioned, the microbrewery component requires a conditional use permit. So for a lack of a better way to describe it, there'll be a second bite at this apple.
Sure. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Good conversation. Anybody got anything else? All right. I will just add a little piece, something to think about. In the near future, we may want to just look at how we do this in general, because we've got this restaurant. We don't necessarily want to create a different set of rules for this one that's pointing sound at Wildwood Pub. We have a situation at Parkside Grill. We've got now Minton Martini. We've got the local house. So looking at how we approach this in general for these places that are, within very quick walking distance to homes is probably something we might want to do. But I think these guys sound like they have an exciting plan. So lots of conversation. Good stuff.
Mr.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember we did it for, I think it was Parkside Grill, and we found that it was substantially under loud. So everybody encounters sound differently. So we got to be respectful of all that, but we also want to make sure that we're treating all of our business partners in the city fairly.
So, Mr. Mayor Pro
Yes, sir.
Tem, Mr. Young, we have Bill 2895 read into the record. If 2895A is the intended outcome, what would be the next step, sir?
We have the second reading. Okay, so we've read it the second time, so at this time, it would be appropriate if it's the desire of the council to make a motion to amend it consistent with Bill 2895A.
All right, Mr. Rambo is going to make the motion and Mr. Mabry will second. All right, everybody understand what we're amending? Okay. Do we need to read it again or we just do the roll call vote? All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Actually, voice
Vote works. Okay, all those in favor of moving forward with
just to amend the bill.
Just to amend the bill. Exciting. All right. Moving forward to amend the bill, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, bill is amended. So now we do a roll call vote. Yep.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers, Councilmember Edens,
Yes.
Councilmember Ottenberg, Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Preston.
Yes.
Bill passes as amended, which takes us to new business. We're getting close, guys. Bill 2896 is before the council for first reading and concerns wards 5. Do we have a motion for the first reading? Oh, let's try this. It's getting late. How about we do all of the first readings in mass unless anybody is opposed?
How many are there?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, sir.
Just a clarification question. Remind me, we've got a request for a second reading. Can we do that?
Yeah.
All of them? and
Yeah, we
do
go
that
the
after?
first time we do it.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody have any concerns about pushing these together? Okay, do we have a motion to do a combined first reading of bills 2896, 2897, 2898, 2899, 2900, 2901, and 2902? Motion is made by Mr. Hopper, seconded by Ms. McCutcheon. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, here we go, Megan. Back to you.
Bill number 2896, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a city consultant agreement with HR Green Incorporated to complete the design of a new shared use path connecting the villages at Brightleaf subdivision with Green Pines Park. First reading. Bill number 2897, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending chapter 390 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri by enacting new parking regulations on Canberry Lane, Lark Song Drive, and Pillar Lane, and authorizing and directing the city traffic engineer to erect appropriate signage reflecting such parking regulations. First reading. Bill number 2898, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a contract for municipal court services, specialty courts, by and between the city of Wildwood, Missouri and St. Louis County, Missouri, for participation in the St. Louis County Municipal Court Specialty Courts Program. First reading. Bill number 2899, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending chapter 390 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri by establishing a regulation of the kinds and classes of traffic permitted on Old State Road between State Route 109 and Old Fairway Drive. First reading. Bill number 2900, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a lot split plat for the division of a 30-acre lot of record into two properties, the larger retaining a commercial stable under an existing conditional use permit, CUP, and the other being common ground of the Deer Point Estate subdivision, all being located in U.S. Survey 1956, Township 45 North, Range 3 East, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, and located on the northwest corner of Austin Fort Road and Deer Point Estates Drive, to be hereafter known as Deer Point Estates Lot Split Plat, first reading. Bill number 2901, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a lot split plat for the division of a 39-acre tract of land into 2 lots located on the west side of Hinkin Road, east of its intersection with State Route 100, with such being in the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter of section 20, Township 44 North, Range 3 East of the 5th Principal Meridian, and to be hereafter known as Hinkin Hills Estates, first reading. Bill number 2902, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a boundary adjustment plat between 3 lots of record, creating 2 parcels of ground primarily located on the east side of Chateau Lane, west of Fox Creek Road, being lots 202, 203, and 204 of the Fox Creek Valley subdivision, plat number 6, recorded in book 120, pages 4 and 5, along with a tract of land in the west 1/2 of section 32, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, and to be hereafter known as Fox Creek Valley, plat number 6, adjustment plat, first reading.
Excellent job. All right, Mr. Vunich, Mr. Brown, or Mr. Lee, do you have anything you'd like to add to the information that's already been provided to the council?
Mayor Pro Tem and council members, I don't have anything to add relative to the bills, but I'm available for any questions at this time.
All right, any questions? No. Okay, we have had a request for a second reading, right, for bill 2902. Which I believe we'd have to have a 3/4 majority, right? So we can try to do that with a voice vote.
Mr. Mayor Pro
Yep.
Tem, Mr. Marlar, the survey of record for the plat associated with Bill 2900, wasn't able to be here for the public participation, but has respectfully requested a second reading of that bill as well.
Okay, can we do 2 at once, or do we have to do them separate? Okay, would anybody care to make the motion? Yes, ma'am. $28.98. Okay. Oh, yeah, the court one. Got it. Okay. That's okay. Would anybody care to make a motion for a second reading for bills 2898, 2902, and what was it, Joe? 2900? 2900. Mr. Jaxie makes the motion. Mr. Galani seconds the motion. It needs to be a 3/4 majority. We'll try it with a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read our 3 bills a second time.
Bill number 2898, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute a contract for municipal court services, specialty courts, by and between the city of Wildwood, Missouri and St. Louis County, Missouri, for participation in the St. Louis County Municipal Court Specialty Courts Program, second reading. Bill number 2900, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a lot split plat for the division of a 30-acre lot of record into 2 properties, the larger retaining a commercial stable under an existing conditional use permit CUP, and the other being common ground of the Deer Point Estate subdivision, all being located in US Survey 1956, Township 45 North, Range 3 East, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, and located on the northwest corner of Austin Fort Road and Deer Point Estates Drive, to be hereafter known as Deer Point Estates Lot Split Plat, second reading. Bill number 2902, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a boundary adjustment plat between 3 lots of record, creating 2 parcels of ground primarily located on the east side of Chateau Lane, west of Fox Creek Road, being lots 202, 203, and 204 of the Fox Creek Valley subdivision, plat number 6, recorded in book 120, pages 4 and 5, along with a tract of land in the west 1/2 of section 32, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, and to be hereafter known as Fox Creek Valley plat number 6, adjustment plat, second reading.
All right. Anybody have any questions or concerns? Okay. Ms. Eldridge, let's do a roll call vote for the final passage of bills 2898, 2900, and 2902.
Councilmember Nian,
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo,
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons, Councilmember Albers, Councilmember Edens, Councilmember Ottenberg, Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxie,
Yes.
Councilmember Hopper,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Preston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry.
Yes.
All right, those three pass. Next up, we've got first readings from hearings with a favorable city recommendation. Bill 2903 is before the council for first reading and concerns all wards. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bill? Ms. Dodwell makes the motion. Mr. Preston seconds. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Bill number 2903, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, deleting section 415.220 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri in its entirety, and enacting in lieu thereof a new section 415.220 and amending section 415.380 subsection I 2B of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, and providing for membership requirements and review processes of the Architectural Review Board. First reading.
All right, Mr. Vunich, you have anything additional for us?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of City Council, as the title describes, these are the recommended changes to the city's Architectural Review Board. Most importantly, amongst all of the changes is the retention of the board, but the changes do streamline the board from a perspective of its size, as well as the processes, and equally important, the final arbiter of decisions relating to the architectural style of any building or structure in town center and outside town center except single-family detached dwellings will be the Planning and Zoning Commission with any and all appeals coming to City Council.
All right. Mr. Marshall.
Just totally confused on this one. I know we talked at one point about doing away with that and allow it to go back to the department and to planning and zoning. Then it's got pushed back around, and I was here long enough to know we added members just to get enough to get a quorum for an ARB meeting. And then those were qualified. And I know it's very difficult, but if it's going to end up going back to planning and zoning and back to the back to the council, I still don't understand, because if I read this correctly, if we have one certified architect living in the city, we then have an option to hire two outside consultants. If only two show up to the meeting and they happen to be not the city people, but the consultants, they could actually make the decision then, and then it goes back to planning and zoning. And then from planning and zoning, it comes back to the city council.
Only under appeal.
So but the two contractors could go ahead and make the approval and the city would move forward with their recommendation.
They would send a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and only after the Planning and Zoning Commission had acted could it proceed.
Okay, so my second follow-up question is, last meeting, we approved and nominated 4 people to the Architectural Review Board. And I think only one of those is an architect.
Actually, of all the members on the board at this time, there's only one practicing architect. That's it.
So the people that we approved last month, they'll fall off if once this gets read and passed, they would not be on there.
That's correct, sir. And I just want to emphasize the reason the board is so important. Of all the items, all the discussions, all the plans, all the drawings that I think Public Works and Planning review, the most technical are the architectural drawings. So from that perspective, when an architect presents to an architectural review board, it's always incumbent, I think, upon the city to have architects that can speak the language and understand, bless you, and understand the components. The desire is to have 3 resident architects, and lowering the number is that is the hope for outcome. Instead of trying to find 5, we only need 3. But if we can't find 3, we can have 1 and 2 residents, or in the worst case scenario, which I believe it is the worst case scenario, we have 1 resident architect and 2 contractors, so to speak. When the Planning and Zoning Commission was presented this kind of option, we did a study of other municipalities, and other municipalities actually do this, because I think we all struggle to have qualified architects participate in architectural review.
Thanks.
Ms. Dodwell.
Yes, if the bill is approved and becomes ordinance. Anyone on? Well, I think it certainly a discussion will have to be had with the members of the board to explain the circumstances. I think it's important to note at the Planning and Zoning Commission, Board Member Lavelli, who is the chair, stepped to the podium and basically said, I really don't know much about architecture. I'm glad to serve. Okay. Oh, yes. Yes. I think between Mr. Lee, Mayor Garitano, and I, we will do a gracious as possible approach to the members and certainly encourage them to keep their application on file because as you know, we always need volunteers.
Councilmember Dodwell, I discussed this with the mayor, and at the time the decision was we had vacancies on that board and we had terms ending. And since nothing had been done yet for the ARB, we decided to go ahead and just appoint that, knowing that what Mr. Vunich said, we would handle that if it came down the road.
Yeah, we've got another one later with Mr. Vanek, who we appointed, and then his term expired in like 3 days later or something. So we're going to appoint him again. Yes.
Ms. Dodwell, I think the worst case scenario and a failure on the part of the department is that our board members find out about it in either the Eureka Leader or the West News magazine. So we'll do our best to avoid that.
All right, Ms. McCutcheon.
Will there be a council liaison to the Architectural Review Board? Are we giving that one up?
We're giving that one up because again, all of the decisions from the Planning and Zoning Commission will be received and filed now by City Council, which is not the case.
All right. Anybody else? I just have a question. So as to not make this any more awkward than it appears to need to be, should we be doing a second reading of this so we can just get this Band-Aid ripped off or what?
Well, I think Mr. Young and I would probably concur. There's no sure things on second reading. So until then, I think we should proceed forward under the assumption the existing legislation is in place.
Correct. Yes, correct.
So does that mean
I would recommend proceeding, Mayor Pro Tem.
with a second reading?
Yes.
Okay. Would anybody care to make that motion? Ms. Eden makes the motion. Anybody care to second? Mr. Rottenberg seconds it. Let's try this with a voice vote. 2/3 majority. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Mr. Marshall is opposed. Any abstentions? Okay. That moves forward. Oh, yeah. Let's read it. This is a lot of reading. I'm sorry, Megan.
Okay, and bill number 2903, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, deleting section 415.220 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri in its entirety, and enacting in lieu thereof a new section 415.220, and amending section 415.380, subsection I-2B of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, and providing for membership requirements and review processes of the Architectural Review Board, second reading.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'm going to throw myself on the sword, but I'd sure like Mr. Young to review this particular bill with a greater amount of detail than I was able to provide him previously.
Okay.
So the department would respectfully ask for the second reading not to be approved tonight.
Okay. I think we can probably see. Well, we'll see what we can do with that, I guess. So
Well, what would be appropriate at this time is a motion to postpone final vote until the next meeting. Thank you.
all right, motion made by Ms. Odwell, seconded by Mr. Ottenberg. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you so much for your understanding.
Sure. All right, let's see. Bill 2904 is before the council for first reading and concerns Ward 8. Mr. Galani, I assume you're making this motion? All right, Mr. Galani makes the motion, seconded by Mr. Preston. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2904.
Bill number 2904, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing a change in zoning of a 6-acre tract of land from the NU non-urban residence district to the PS Park and Scenic District, which is to be the city of Wildwood's Village Green, first reading.
Mr. Vunich, you have anything extra for us?
No, sir, but I'm available for any questions or comments.
All right, anybody got any questions, comments?
Thank you.
This will be on our agenda at our next meeting. That brings us to resolutions, which are on the consent agenda. Do we go through, you want to read each part of the consent agenda? All right. Anybody want to pull anything off the consent agenda? Deb Wood?
I have to abstain from last meeting, so I don't know how you want to handle that.
We'll just pull the minutes out. Does that sound good to everybody? All right, Mr. Galani makes the motion to approve the consent agenda minus the minutes. Anybody care to second that? Sinayan seconds it. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Well, we pulled the minutes out. Yeah. So do you want to? Okay. So Ms. McCutcheon's a yes on that. All right. Then the last piece would be the minutes from our work session and regular meeting from June. Would anybody care to make a motion to approve those minutes made by Mr. Galani? Anybody care to second it? Tracy, I'm looking at you. Excellent job. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the June meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? We've got 2 abstentions, Mr. Hopper and Ms. McCutcheon. All right, I think hopefully if there's any miscellaneous issues, we got to read the resolutions, right? Or no, we're good. Any miscellaneous issues? What?
Hey, this is for you, man. I just wanted to say thank you. You did a great job tonight as Mayor Pro Tem, and Mayor Garitano picked a good night to go on vacation.
Thank you, everybody. All right, with that, I will entertain a motion. Maybe I technically could still make, but I won't, for adjournment. Mr. Hopper makes the motion. Anyone care to second that? Mr. Preston, non-debatable. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.